Welcome to the Sorry You're in My Seat podcast. This is episode 11 and we're going to be talking Stephen King today. If this is your first time joining us, Sam, set up what this podcast is.
This podcast is a podcast about film.
Yes. This podcast is a podcast about films. Each week we get around the mics to talk about some good films that we've been watching, some bad films to try and keep you away from. And along the way, we're trying to educate our good buddy Sam on what makes a good film.
Because I do not know that.
Because your catalogue of film includes just some of the worst things we've ever seen.
Very true. But I'm learning. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Only episode 11, guys, and you're working your magic on me.
I think it's rubbing off.
It is.
I'm your host, Aaron. I'm joined each and every week by my good buddy, James.
Hello.
Who's a fellow film enthusiast.
I like that.
I like that.
Traveller in the world of movies.
And obviously, Sam.
I spoke already.
Sam has spoken.
Hello.
As we said, we're going to do Stephen King, but let's just recap last week's episode where we talked about The Predator and Black Klansman. I just want to do a round of apologies to begin with from last week.
Okay.
I think I need to get this off my chest early as possible. 3 apologies, really. First is to the listener. At the end of the episode, when we talked about Dunkirk, and I was like, oh, and that's when they're on Normandy Beach. The film is called Dunkirk.
I was going to say, we covered for you that for a little second, and there was like 3 seconds of silence where you were going, Did I? Did it what?
Do you know what was genuinely going through my head at that point?
What?
Stop recording, rewind, and do it again.
I was going to say, you say we recovered, you can't recover from that, mate.
I was about to go back, and that was what was going through my head. I was like, God, that's embarrassing. But that's what this podcast is about. You don't always get it right.
Exactly. This proves to the listener, we don't do an awful lot of editing on these. What you do is what you get.
I thought you were going there.
Exactly.
So going, we don't know what we're talking about.
I wasn't going to go there, but no, we don't do a lot of editing. What we say is what you get.
The second apology I'd like to make is to The Predator.
Ooh.
Not the film, The Predator itself.
Okay.
He's been waiting for this.
Well,
he didn't leave us a review on
Predator,
Facebook.
Well, that's what I was going to apologise for. Last week, 3 times I mentioned he, The Predator. I said he. And in 2018, it's wrong to assume any gender. So
Did you just assume
never
the
assume a
Predator's
gender.
I did. So I'm apologising to The Predator. It may be a he or it may not be a he. I don't know. Third and final apology, I'm going to apologise to James. I think it was a bit harsh on you last week, James.
Why?
I think we swore at you a bit too much.
Did you? I didn't notice.
You lollipop.
So I'm going to do the absolute reverse this week. I'm going to kiss your ass all episode.
Can I join you?
Yeah, you've got to say sorry to him though.
Okay, James, I'm so sorry. You beautiful, beautiful man.
Okay.
Good.
Why does this make me
Your
more
hair is like
nervous?
silk.
I'm just going to drop him in for the whole episode about how great I think you are, James.
Thank you.
I love you.
You've had 2 podcasts named after you already.
I have.
And we're only 11 in.
I mean, I haven't won any games yet, but...
You probably won't if you keep playing how you do, but that's got nothing to do with you as a person because you're a great person.
That's true.
It's like the intervention again, but...
Is this because of the complaint I made with HR?
No. So last week, towards the end, we didn't script last week's episode. We just started talking. Sam dropped a bomb on us by saying that you'd seen the Dark Tower film, which we hadn't scripted for, which led to a good 10-minute conversation on that. At the end of it, we said, we should do a Stephen King episode, which we all agreed afterwards. And then spookily, it was Stephen King's birthday the day after that we made that decision, and it just felt right, wasn't it?
It was kismet. It was meant to
Which
be.
we didn't know, and James actually put it in our group chat. So thank you, James, for that.
I was going to say, you're going to kiss my ass for something that's correct, because he was Aaron.
Yeah. I was the one who...
I can't help it. I've always got you on my mind, James.
Yeah. Well, that's just because he's beautiful. That's all it is.
He's beautiful. He's a beautiful guy.
So we're going to do Stephen King. So we're going to look at his what makes Stephen King films. Because Stephen King, let's be honest, with his films, they fall under 3 categories. Greatness. There are a few Stephen King adaptations from his novels into films that are absolute brilliant and sure to make our top 100 vote. There are a second bunch of films which are like fan favourites. So not necessarily the best on screen, but just personally, a lot of people enjoy certain specific Stephen King films.
Yeah, definitely.
And then 50% of the films are tripe.
Yeah.
They're not good. They're not good films.
No.
So it's quite hit and miss with Stephen King. And I think we're just going to look at his film, the works of Stephen King. And for the sake of the episode, for reference, we're going to look at his filmography. So no short films, no TV movies, no TV series, nothing like that. We're going to look at just his films. Is that all right with you two?
Completely fine with that because I've not seen any of the short films or TV series?
No, for example, Aaron's talking about the film It that came out recently, but the film that we all grew up with as a TV series, not that.
Which I know because a lovely lady on Twitter gave me a keyboard warrior.
She was brutal, wasn't she?
Yeah, I wrote something about the new It film. I was like, really enjoyed the remake or something like that. And she was like, the first one was a TV movie. And I was like, okay, right the way from Australia, you keyboard warrior.
We hadn't released a single episode by then at that stage, had we? We were already getting jip.
Yeah, that was just watching the film. So before that, any business, James? I know you want to bring something up before we get into the meat of Stephen King.
I do. It's just a quick personal thing for me. So we all like movies and we all watch movies for different reasons. So my granddad is unfortunately quite ill at the moment. And I just want to say, and I know he's listening, is a big thank you because he is my unsung hero because when I was growing up, he's from the Republic of Ireland. So in the summers between school, my parents would put me on a plane and ship me out to Ireland on my own. Granddad would pick me up and I'd spend 4 or 5 weeks in Ireland in County Cork. And every day, or every few days, he would take me to the cinema. And he went out and he bought a VCR. I'm sounding old now. And he'd buy films for me so I could watch them when I travelled. And he loves films. When I speak to him, we speak about nothing but films. And I need to just say how much I appreciate the time he spent with me. He snuck me in to see Judge Dredd, the Sylvester Stallone one. He went, and this is it. So I want to thank him for that, but I also want to thank and apologise at the same time because this man's been through a lot in his life and I made that man watch Super Smash Brothers, the Mario film.
Which we will talk about at
exactly.
a later date,
I have
100%.
made that man watch some awful films and for that I apologise, but I'm also very grateful. So thank you, Grandad.
Thank you, James to Grandad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I mean... so you say he's he's unwell at the moment?
He is unwell, yes.
Well, you could always ask him as well maybe what his top 3 films are and we could do a whole episode on those 3 films.
We started it, so we were talking about Taken and he went on this tangent about what's happened to films and he was comparing Rob Roy to Taken and I was like, they're different films, Grandad. Right? He went, I know, but still. But no, he's really big fan of Rob Roy.
Oh, wow.
So I will ask him next time I speak to him.
Yeah, do that. And, I'm certain if he told you what his greatest achievements in life are, such a great grandson is probably, number one of that.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Grandad, for you.
Yeah.
Without him, you wouldn't be here sat with us. And
in fact, when you call him, can I speak to him so I can pass on that thanks from Sam?
Yeah, please.
It's just weird. I don't like this at all.
We get told off when we take the piss. Now we're getting told off for being nice.
At least I know where I stand on one of them.
James, we love you, man. We love you.
Don't ever not be you, James. Okay, Sam, any business?
Stephen King.
Stephen King. Let's get on with Stephen King then. So Stephen King. Stephen King was born in Portland, Maine in 1947. He's 71 years old last week.
That was my line.
Was it?
No.
Do you want to continue?
No, I didn't do any research.
His first professional story was published when he was 20. That was in 1967. It was a short novel. It was a short story that was picked up by a kind of mystery magazine, I think it was. He began teaching English in a high school in Maine, and it was really in 1971 where his first book, Carrie, was published and picked up in the autumn of 1973. That was picked up, which then later became a film. And then he quit teaching, and he's been doing it full time ever since. That's writing. His wife's a writer, and his son's a writer as well. So some of the novels are across.
Did not know that.
They're 2 authors in a lot of them. He's published over 50 books, and he's considered one of the most successful writers of all time. And when you look at the number of films that have been inspired by his novels, I think he is the leading author to film adaptation. I think it's really hard on
He's
the
got to be
internet.
quite high. He's got to
It's really hard to find that exact figure because some lists would count all of his TV novels. Some would count where he's had a writing credit or maybe he's wrote the screenplay. Some would say that he actually removed his name from certain films after they were made. He tried to disassociate himself with certain films, and therefore a definitive list has been quite difficult today to find. I've read everything from he's had 70 publications, film adaptations to 35. So it's but it's a massive list. We're going to talk about a few of them. Does anyone want to jump in first and go first with a film?
No, but I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Purely because when I was thinking about this episode earlier, every time I was thinking about a film, it started with, have you read the book, Aaron? So I don't want to do that because that's going to get boring. So how many of his books do you think you've read?
I think I've read 75%, I'd say.
Yeah?
I'd guess it's 75%.
To be fair, he's got quite a backlog, so that's quite impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yeah. I put on our Instagram story yesterday that the kind of my book collection of most of them. I think I've read about that. In terms of the films, looking at the film listing, I think it's probably about the same. About 75% of them I think I might have seen. Definitely, I think all the ones today we're talking about I've seen, so I can chip in there. I was going to ask you, James, because you actually come from a English degree background, don't you?
I do.
So here's your chance to put that to use.
Finally. You magnificent man.
Yeah, could you expertly summarise then, for anyone listening, what's the difference between a novel, a novella and a short story? Because Stephen King's accredited for all three.
Right, so your novel, which is your essential, the books for it, because it's huge, that's about 80,000 words or more. Mm-hmm. Novella is between about 30, 60, 80. When you get between 60 and 80, it's usually up to you.
Okay.
What it is. Short stories come back all the way to, you just mentioned it, magazines. So magazines would launch short stories and that type of thing. So a lot of the time you weren't even paid for them. You submit a story, they'd publish it, and then maybe a publisher would be interested in that, and then that's when you develop from a short story to a novella to a novel. So that's where the magazine play comes. They don't do that as often now. So but a lot of authors nowadays started off, and that's why they're credited for all three, is because they'd try out their hand at a short story or a novella, and if they get a lot of traction, then that's when you can sit at home, you can write a novel. Yeah,
because I've read Stephen King's book on writing, where he talks about his writing process. He talks about some of his more classic novels and works of fiction where he's got a very kind of strict 10 pages a day. He doesn't do any more than 10 pages a day. And on his timeline, then if he starts writing in September, he normally gets the book finished by March, and that tends to be how he works and how he operates.
You see, I know an author that doesn't do 10 pages a year, George R. Martin. I'm still waiting for the rest of the Game of Thrones books.
Hasn't he given up on those?
I don't think he's given up because I don't think his fan base will let him.
I thought he stopped the books when the TV series overtook him.
No, because he always told them that there's no way the TV series would ever catch up and the books would be published by then, but they haven't. He's going to get lynched because he's going to probably die before he publishes them.
Oh, yeah. That's another week of talking about Game of Thrones, and I'm so excited about next year and the season finale.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, then let's throw straight in.
I think if we're going to talk about writers and novelists, we should talk about Misery.
Oh.
We'll start with Misery if you like.
We'll get that segue in there.
Okay, let's go for Misery. So, 1990 classic Misery, starring Kathy Burke and
Kathy Bates, was it?
It's Kathy Bates. Was it Dunkirk?
We're Alkin again, mate.
Yeah, Kathy Bates was on Dunkirk. Kathy Bates and
James Caan.
James Caan.
Yeah.
Let's go.
What do you want to know?
Let's set up the storyline. What happens in it?
You know, that's stuff that we normally do every podcast. Probably go with that, mate.
Well, I know, but you start talking, so I just assumed you were going to go for it yourself.
So I'll segue in for you. There you go.
Cool. So, yeah, it's about a writer who's got he writes a lot of books called, they're all about misery. So Misery's Child, Misery this, Misery that. He is in a car crash and is found by Kathy Dunkirk Bates. She takes him home, fixes him up. His legs are shattered. She looks after him. She makes his dinner, this thing, that. And she just turns mental. Turns out she's his biggest fan, and she's a bit cray.
Yeah, what are the odds?
I was just saying, it's been a while since I've seen it. Doesn't she read?
He's got the manuscript.
He's got the manuscript because I could be completely wrong. Hasn't he got like an ongoing series with a character, and it's the final book, and she hates the fact that it's the final book when she reads it.
He kills off
her favourite character.
Yeah, kills off Misery.
Yeah, because he wants to wash his hands of the series.
He wants to do something else, doesn't he? Yeah.
So he kills her off. He's on the way to post the final manuscript to his publishing company. Like you say, he has the car crash outside. She saves him. She patches him up. She finds the manuscript to his last novel. She reads it. She loves it. She's his best friend until she reads how it ends. And then, unfortunately, that's where the horror comes into it, isn't it? Is because she keeps him captive, essentially.
She hobbles his leg, his foot.
Let's get on to so she keeps him captive to make him rewrite the novel how where she survives. Now,
let's be honest, we can't not spoil this film.
No. All these are going to be spoiled because
28 years
point
old.
To look at with all Stephen King films, the good ones, there tends to be a scene that everyone remembers, and in Misery, it's this scene, and unfortunately, it's when the block of wood is put between
his ankles.
And then she takes a hammer to both sides of
a
him.
Sledgehammer. And the second one you don't see, but the first one you see cave in, which is just insane.
In the original, is it in the book or is it in the original script? She cut one of the feet off. That
Oh,
was
really?
originally
I
supposed to-
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and my understanding is the reason the movie she didn't do that was because that would have made Dunkirk Bates too unlikable. I was like, isn't she the bad guy? Aren't you? But why is she supposed to be likable?
I think it did wonders for her career. I think she came out of this, as like I say, that woman from Misery for years.
Well, she won the Academy Award for it, didn't she?
Yeah, so she
in
won
fact, she won most awards for best.
She's great.
Best
Isn't
actress.
She's
Yeah.
scary as hell in it. Yeah.
She won the Academy Award, and one of the other films I'll talk about in a minute was also the 2 lead actresses were nominated for the Academy Award, which is very rare in the horror genre to be picked up for the leading performance award. So yeah, Misery, Kathy Bates in that steals it really. It's her film, isn't it? She goes
massively.
She goes all layers of psycho in that film. I growing up when I watched it the first time, I watched it and I was like, yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
I was the same as you. I was going to say that. I was exactly the same as you until I rewatched it yesterday.
And then I rewatched it kind of in my mid 20s, and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, this film's brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Really, it's a thing about Stephen King with his books and the films that are inspired by his books. They're not the horror that is in maybe your DVD collection, Sam. The blood, the guts, the gore, the kind of that level of graphicness. A lot of Stephen King horror is imposed, isn't it? And it's kind of suggested, or it's subtle, or in some cases it might be breaking someone's ankles, but it's not running all the way through the film. The books and the films build tension.
I was going to say, it's the turn of Kathy Dunkirk Bates, which
Yes.
is now her nickname.
Yes.
It's the fact that, as I recall, unlike you two, it's been a while since I've seen the film. But as I recall, she's very nice. She's very welcoming. The sort of person that you get in those, in a family film and they come across a stranger and she's very helpful. She was that. So she was very good at that.
She's wearing the old-fashioned clothes with a cross around the neck, like real Christian.
Yeah, she's
girl.
apple pie on the window ledge kind of.
definitely.
Exactly. That's exactly. But basically, I thought she did a very good acting, and she's a very skilled actor. That her ability to turn it and just throw it on its head, and she's the devil incarnate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the person I watched it with picked up on the scariest parts in that film is whenever he wakes up, Paul, whatever his name is, the actor.
James Caan.
James Caan, Paul, whatever he is.
James Caan.
His character name's Paul something, James.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Every time he opens his eyes, the next scene is just Kathy Bates' face right in his face.
Yeah.
And that is like some of the scariest parts of it. It's not jump horror, but it's just, oh God, could you imagine waking up and just having that in your face?
It's
and just,
like this.
good morning.
So you've got jump horror, which is the worst kind of horror. Then you've got your psychological torture, which in my opinion is your best. This is kind of like what I put in this weird middle, wears you down horror. It just kind of sticks this routine, which if you were in that situation would scare the bejesus out of you. It's just constant. And
Yes.
I've got very fond memories of the film. I do remember liking it. I can't imagine it was a lot to make. And I imagine it was quite intimate. And those two actors, and I'm not really a big James Caan fan, but I think he was quite all right in this. But it's Kathy Bates all the way. She's
Kathy Bates.
fantastic.
I think it's what the film does really well, and quite a lot of the Stephen King films we're going to talk about have this, is that quite often the majority of the film is two people in one room, in one situation.
Just talking, yeah.
And it's the dialogue and it's that script to screen transition that I think make the Stephen King great, is when you're pulling those direct lines, those conversations with characters, and you're letting the character development in the film that occurs in the book occur to the viewer. Some of Stephen King's lesser films that have been turned into books into films, such as like Cell, where it's all CGI and effects, and I don't think they come across too well. So Misery is a great one. Definitely one that I'd recommend to people to watch and to check out.
I want to rewatch it because you've two seen it recently than I have. There's something I would like to go back and rewatch.
A couple of things. I wouldn't have been driving in that snow at the beginning.
You know what? I mentioned that 3 times. Of one, we all know I don't like snow, mate. And 2, bear in mind, I've only watched 3 Stephen King films over the last 2 days. I've not really had a chance. 2 of them have snow in them. And I was not happy about that. But I did mention of one, you wouldn't drive in that snow.
No.
And the big one was they put the brakes on, the car stops. Not in that snow, mate. I'm not having it. You'd skid a little bit.
That's your problem with Stephen King.
That's my problem with Misery.
His brakes don't stop on his car.
Yes,
Okay,
James.
all right.
And I'll tell you something. bloody fantastic.
Yeah.
As a person.
Well done for being you, James.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, James, do you want to take one or do you want me to go?
You go. You've got 5.
I don't need to talk about all 5, but I just had a busy. I had a lovely Sunday where I didn't have a lot on, so I watched 2 back to back.
Oh, I love them Sundays.
Yeah, I did a bit of housework and then came back and watched the third one.
What did you have for
which was
dinner?
really good.
Did it end well?
I can't remember what I ate.
What time did you go to bed?
What time did I go to bed?
There's something about going to bed early on a Sunday. It's just really
After a
nice.
nice dinner and a bath, not a shower.
It's not going to happen now while NFL's on.
No, actually, yeah, we was up
Sunday
to
for
about
half
2,
a
wasn't we?
year now. He's going to be 2 a.m. bedtimes. So I'm going to go to Carrie then, 1976. So his first novel, which was turned into a film, and a real big hitter is the Carrie. Directed by Brian De Palma. This stars Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie, who are both nominated for the Oscars in this category.
Oh, wow.
As well, so as lead and supporting actor.
And a certain John Travolta.
Yeah, I was going to get John Travolta. John Travolta in his most John Travolta-y role is Carrie.
Before John Travolta was cool, he was John Travolta.
Yeah. And also a good starting point is because Stephen King thinks this is his best transition from book to film has been Carrie.
Obviously, this isn't a remake that came out a few
No.
years ago.
So this is the original. So Carrie White is a shy and withdrawn teen who's bullied by classmates and she's abused by a religious, controlling mother at home. It's the end of the high school year. The bullies play a prank on Carrie, which ends ultimately in her unleashing her telekinetic powers to a devastating massacre, essentially, isn't it? Is the whole plot of the film.
Yeah.
This film, for me, it's got some issues to it. But when you watch it, very quickly, you find yourself rattling towards the end. It's not a long film at all. It's like an hour and a half. And I remember watching it, and you get the kind of backstory at the beginning of Carrie. You see her upbringing. You see her being bullied at school. There's the infamous opening scene in the shower, which then goes to introducing her mum as this religious, really over-the-top religious character. And then very quickly you find yourself heading towards the prom scene, which is the infamous scene from Carrie that everyone knows, where the pig blood falls on her. And I've just found myself just hurtling along at this speed. And I was like, oh my God, we're at the prom scene already. And then I remember back to the book, and the book's very much similar to that. I think from my memory of the book, there's only 2 or 3 scenes that are not in the film.
The book are interviews, aren't they? They're split into 3 parts. Isn't a part of interviews after the fact as well?
There might be some reference to it, but
because I've read the book once. It was when I was drinking with you one night, and Sam was on nights, and it was when you lived on Rookery Lane. Do you remember you had the world's most uncomfortable bed? Mm-hmm. I couldn't sleep in it, so I went downstairs and stole one of Aaron's books. It was Carrie, and I read it in one night.
Oh, yeah, it's one of his shorter novels as well, isn't it? So Carrie's mum's really interested in this one, as this, like I say, she believes that sex is a sin, that a girl maturing
Which
is it?
I don't know, is it?
Well, you're lucky we came around when we did, didn't you? Before you sinned.
Yeah, bitch.
God, I love you, James. So much.
She believes
I saved his soul, by the way, for the record. I came in and saved his soul.
She believes that the female menstrual cycle is a sin, and a lot of that stems from her own failed marriage, because in the storyline, her husband, Carrie's father, left at a young age. Like I said, they're both Oscar nominated for this one as well. One thing about this film that I want to address is the opening scene. Can you remember the film?
I can.
Yeah.
Can you remember that opening scene?
I can.
No.
It's in the school showers, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she has her first ever...
Let's just rewind a little
yes,
bit.
I do then.
Let's just rewind a tiny little bit, though. There's a lot of full frontal nudity in the opening.
There is what?
Into the beginning of Carrie.
It's not gratuitous. They're not doing anything.
They're just in the...
But they're naked?
Yeah, in the locker rooms and stuff.
My days. Do you have it on DVD?
This is about high school girls, right?
I don't want to see it.
I remember seeing the film 2 or 3 times. And the various reincarnations. There was Carrie 2, The Rage in 1999. There was the TV movie. There's the Carrie remake with Chloe Grace Moretz in it.
I quite like the remake, to be fair. So
yeah, so I've seen most of them in the interim between rewatching Carrie, and I remember that opening scene just being like, "This is about a load of people on the way to prom, right? And like, surely we shouldn't be in this locker room watching this, or cover up, ladies." Is what I was thinking.
So what you're trying to say is this is the last episode of Sorry My Seed before you get arrested.
A lot more people have seen it than just me. I'm just saying. I just found like that was a bit weird.
It's one of those things that I've never really thought about. I just No, but you're right though. Yeah. Oops.
I've not thought about it. I've definitely not spoke about it on a podcast.
Well, there's a few more things in it as well.
Dare we know what they are now?
No, more things that would A, not make it into a film nowadays, and B, you would not get in recent times. One of the bully characters badmouths to a teacher who slaps the crap out of her. And I know from reading into the film that slapping scene took 30 takes.
Oh my days.
Do you think it didn't? And the actor was just, they like stole the last donut and was just putting it off.
Well, the real bad thing is that the actor as well who did that was cast as Carrie to the last minute and then got demoted. Sissy Spacek came in the 11th hour, who went above and beyond getting into this role. Obviously you studied the Bible religiously, stayed away from everyone on set. She didn't want to be like with anyone or associated with anyone during the filming period. During the end scenes where she gets the pig's blood thrown on her, she slept in that dress in that for 3 days for continuity.
Really?
Because she wanted the same bit of blood on the face, same blood on the arm. So she stayed in that. That prom scene as well with the blood falling on her took 30 takes. So how many times she had, God, how she didn't come out of this psychologically scarred.
So somebody in that is not very good at their job.
Yeah, it could be that.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, if it took me 30 attempts to do my job, I'd get sacked. You know what I mean?
She probably just like high-fived the director or something.
Yeah.
She probably spilled milk on him.
She wanted to use real pig's blood as well and wasn't allowed it.
Oh, she really threw herself into this role then.
Yeah. John Travolta slaps a lot of women in it. It's just, again, it's real early 70s, this
JT.
film.
Just for the record, this is about Stephen King.
Yeah.
Stephen King.
Yeah, so I'll sum up with Carrie. Like I said, there's a few more really interesting things that I found about it. It was going to be scored by the guy who did the Psycho score, Bernard Harmon.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So he was going to do it. So, but 4 weeks before they start filming, he passed. So what they do is every time when Carrie uses her telekinetic powers to smash a window or to slam a door or to in the kind of first half of they use them 4 notes from Psycho. You know, the shower scene. You know, that kind of sound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they use that in it as a nod to the fact that obviously, to pay respect to him. Carrie, like I say, if you haven't seen it, I think it's if you're a Stephen King fan, surely you've seen Carrie, right?
Yeah,
Most
definitely.
people have seen it in some form. I've only got... Oh, sorry.
No, absolutely.
I've only got one real problem with the film. And it's because it's one of these films that has a famous scene in it. And it's like you said, every film with Stephen King's name attached has that one scene. This one scene is right at the end. And everyone knows it's right at the end. So it's like you sit through like an hour and 10 minutes just waiting for this one scene. And sometimes that's not really worth it. I don't remember the first hour and 10 minutes being that rewarding.
Yeah, no,
off the top of my head, I haven't seen it recently.
Piper Laurie, who plays the mum in it, the religious mum, to this day thinks it's a comedy.
Really?
Yeah, she took the script thinking it was a comedy, and to this day stands that by that it's a dark comedy. Yeah.
Wow.
The final thing I was going to say with it as well is that it made 18 times the amount that it cost to make it. I think it only cost like a million to make or something. So at the time, again, it was also one of the biggest grossing films, which really
some serious money,
early Stephen King, I think, launched him into being kind of the name to go to for horror.
Well, it's like a point that you made last week is when you're a young upcoming actor, you have to do these films because you get your face out there, and also you don't cost that much because you're new. So this was, if you think about it, what came out of this film, Sissy Spacek and John Travolta, they did quite well for themselves as well. So
most definitely,
they saved themselves a lot of money and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Final point, I just loved the bit after where the gym teacher goes to the principal's office and lights the biggest cigarette you've ever seen for a gym teacher. I thought that was quite impressive.
I would like to end it with one more point. Well, 2 more points. That spider's now
I was
in your
going to
hair,
say, but I didn't want to point it out. No, it's on your hair.
Oh, I've got a spider in it.
Before we started recording this, we're just about to start talking, and Aaron realised he had a spider on his mic, which is very Stephen King-like. I would just like to end Carrie with just one point that I noticed as you was talking. I sat back and listened. How you described it at the very beginning. If you didn't mention the shower scene, you just described Matilda, didn't you?
Yeah.
Matilda.
Bar the pig's blood. But
Matilda was better.
I was just again barring the pig blood as well.
It had Danny DeVito. Anyway, next one. James.
Yeah, so that's that. I'm gonna pass over to you, James, because I want to hear your soft, gorgeous voice.
I love his opinions.
Look at his eyes today.
Oh
look
my
at
days! And he wore a lovely polo shirt today.
What colour are my eyes? They're brown, boys.
Pigmont brown. I was going to say pigmont brown.
So I'll start off with a 1986 film. directed by Rob Reiner, starring Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, which I didn't realise because he was a fat kid and he turned into like a very gorgeous man. Kiefer
Like
Sutherland, John Cusack, and Richard Dreyfuss. It is, of course, Stand By Me.
Of course.
Which is from the short story called The Body. So there is a... so we take the mick out of Sam for not seeing some films sometimes. This is on a list of films that I've never seen before. When we're doing this... I know I've also never seen The Goonies.
How the hell have you not seen The Goonies?
I don't know. Marshall's always made me want to watch this film and The Goonies. And I've just said... I always, this is going to sound stupid, aren't they the same film? Having not seen The Goonies, aren't they the same film? Anyway, Stand By Me is the story of four friends who, Jerry O'Connell's character, here's his brother and his friend talking about a body of a missing child that they've discovered. So these four kind of outcasts, they're all stereotypes and they all travel off to find it. Along the way, the four friends grow stronger in their friendships. They learn a bit about each other. Like River Phoenix comes from a bad family, like they're the wrong uns and that sort of thing. Will Wheaton's the shy, withdrawn person. It's narrated by Richard Dreyfuss, which is an older version of Will Wheaton's character. Kiefer Sutherland is a leader of a group of bullies that appear in every Stephen King film. I loved Kiefer Sutherland in this film. Thought he was brilliant. He plays chicken with a truck, and then afterwards, whilst he's drinking beer, it's just like, guess I won. It's like, yeah, you did, Kiefer Sutherland. They all learn something about themselves. So it's, if you are Stephen King, the king of horror, no horror elements to this film really at all.
No. And we were talking just before we started recording, it's very much along the same strands as the It film, isn't it? At least the children's part of the novel It.
No, it's basically, it seems to be the same. So it's actually the same kind of group. You know, the Losers Club, they're called in It. You get that opinion of these, the shy one, the fat one, the troubled one, then the kind of the Corey Feldman one.
Yeah.
who's the weirdest one.
So Stephen King, he tends to have that in his novels, that coming of age. You know, he writes a lot of children characters into. Some of his best characters have been children, haven't they? And it's that coming of age, but also loss of innocence is also a reoccurring theme of a lot of his books. In particular, Stand By Me and It, the early part of it.
So Rob Reiner, when he was casting for the parts of the children, didn't want to see them act at all. He sat them in a room and talked to them, and he wanted the ones that shared the same attributes as the characters they were playing. And I remember thinking, what the hell did Kiefer Sutherland do in his interview? When he was decided to be that kind of...
So while you're on about casting,
yeah.
One thing I was going to say about Carrie is when Brian De Palma was casting for Carrie, he sat in the same room as George Lucas and they were both looking for characters. So George Lucas was looking for Star Wars characters, Princess Leia included, as Brian De Palma was auditioning for Carrie. Sorry, that was another interesting thing.
No, that's really cool. But so I just think... So he's not done them for acting, and they've all come out in interviews very recently. For example, I was reading the Jerry O'Connell interview from 2011. So when I say recently, I mean several years ago. He said there wasn't very much acting class on set. It was you sat down, then you sat down with the other people, and the four people who were their characters the most were basically in the film, and that's what they did. So I don't think it's as great as everyone told me, though. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's... I imagine if I'd seen this film when I was younger, because like you say, it is the ultimate coming-of-age story. Every film about coming-of-age group of friends now is based on this.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? You say it's 86?
86, so the same year I was born.
So was it something that you had to have watched earlier?
That's what
I watched it young.
Because that's what I'm thinking. When I was watching it, but the thing is, because it's such a trope, I've seen this film a billion times, but not actually seen this film.
How long is it?
It's about an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, okay, so it's not one of his 3 hour. That's another thing about Stephen King adaptations. A lot of them can kind of push that 3 hour.
When John Cusack plays Will Wheaton's brother who dies, and that's what his damage is, because all the characters are damaged. His damage is that his parents, obviously in the state of depression, have started ignoring their youngest son, and so they're kind of distant, and he doesn't have anyone to grow up. He doesn't really have parents anymore. And I just thought, I've seen this film done so many times. And weirdly, I know we had the conversation now, but when I was watching it, I was just thinking, what's going to be the big surprise at the end? And it never came. I wasn't disappointed. I just wish I'd seen this film when I was younger, which means when I watch The Goonies, it's going to be bloody awful.
And it's another one where it's set in that main New England area, isn't it?
I think this one's Oregon.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of reoccurring, as much as he has these reoccurring themes from his books. Maine, New England, that kind of has a massive part in his storytelling, doesn't it? And he uses the fictional town of Derry a lot, which is where it is filmed. But yeah, a lot of his books that he did, I can never get it right. The 11/23/64, whatever it's called, the one about
assassination of JFK.
The JFK
yeah,
one,
that one. So that's set in Derry, and there's a crossover. So when James Franco in the TV series goes back, he goes through Derry, and at the time there's all the posters up of the children that are missing in it.
Well, this was really funny. I was listening to this, and I was thinking they see the body of a missing child, and I was thinking, because all his books are kind of interlinked, is not at the time of making it, but when he was writing it. Is it possible that what this kid is a victim of?
Yeah,
I was thinking that sort of thing. Yeah,
but Stephen King does do that. He interlaces. Now, there's a TV show in America that we haven't got yet, and I'm hoping it gets picked up, which is called Castle Rock. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard of it, Sam? Castle Rock is a TV show at the minute, HBO TV series, 10 episodes, and it's set in it's not a Stephen King original, but it's set in the universe of Stephen King. So in the first series, the main person we're following is a escapee of Shawshank prison.
Oh, wow.
And it has people in it like Bill Skarsgård who played it. So it has, not only does it have actors from Stephen King films coming back and playing new characters, but it has links to a lot of Stephen King. It's the Stephen King universe, essentially. It's getting really good reviews. I'm really good that we don't have it, because
we will.
I'll be all over that.
We will get it.
Jay, honestly, man, I could listen to your voice all day, because it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, just one thing. Obviously, I didn't really talk at all when you were talking about Stand By Me then. But that is literally only because I was just in awe of you talking. I can't...
I have to talk just to stop myself from, dreaming too much.
Stop it, guys. Anyway, what do you think about Stand By Me, Sam?
I love you so much.
What do you think of Stand By Me, Sam?
The thing I really like about Stand By Me is just how much I want to put my finger in your belly button and just wiggle it around a little bit.
Right. This is a family-friendly show, and I just want to say I will always stand by you, James.
I feel like you've been working on that for a while.
Look at Sam's nose.
That's what it is. No, disappointed. Probably because I didn't watch it when I was young.
Okay, so Carrie and Misery, big hitters. Stand By Me for you, not so much, but I think a lot of people listening would love Stand By Me.
Oh, they would love it. For me, it's middle of the road bacon. It's right in the middle. It's easy. You don't have to think about it. It makes you feel kind of good, I imagine, when you get to a certain age. Problem is, kids nowadays have no idea what, you just tweet it now. If you found a picture of a dead body, you'd put it on Instagram and you'd go away. You wouldn't, go exploring.
You'd hashtag it.
You'd hashtag it, dead body.
I like Stephen King, the Stand By Me. It's just that, like I say, it's that kind of children's adventure. Like, if you haven't seen Goonies, then I can understand. But I love all those kind of films.
Yeah.
Right, Sam, we're going around the table. So apparently,
okay.
Why not? So
okay. May as well do Pet Sematary then, haven't we?
Yes,
we have.
Yes.
So this film was a year at some point. It was 89, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good.
It
was at some point.
I actually knew that as well. 89. I actually couldn't tell you who's in it. I unfortunately didn't write anything down.
Because he was too busy thinking of you, James.
I was.
His hands couldn't work because they were trembling.
Exactly.
Oh, nice.
My hands are still trembling. So if you do hear random knocks on the table and stuff, I do apologise. I've only had 7. So yeah, it's once again, we're not giving too much away. This is another film that has a big scene in that you're waiting for. It's about a doctor who moves to this new house to become a doctor of this small village, this small town. They are backed onto what's called the Pet Cemetery. Beyond that is a old graveyard where if you bury people, they come back alive, or animals, they come back alive. And it's all down to the one scene of when his child gets hit by a truck and dies. So the whole way through it, they're talking about how the main road, the only road in, only road out, is constant trucks all day. Hence the fact they have a pet cemetery to lay all the animals to rest that die. And unfortunately, the child dies, which I've not seen this film in a very long time because I watched it very young. And I remember turning it off at a certain scene that absolutely petrified me, and I never watched it again. We're talking probably 15 years ago.
Which scene was that?
When the little kid comes
Under
back
the table.
and cuts the Achilles tendon. Yeah,
That's quite near the end of the film, isn't it?
it's quite near the end.
Yeah.
But it absolutely petrified me.
It did with me that bit.
I forgot the opening scene when they first come to the house, and it's about five different jump scenes sort of thing where you think this small child is going to die. And I'm like, I don't remember being this early, but every time you're going, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh it doesn't. Oh no, oh no. You're going, stop neglecting your child, man.
Yeah, it's setting up the premise, isn't it? That
so you know straight away what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it being as gory as it actually is.
Yeah.
There is some terrible acting in it.
Mm-hmm.
There is some good acting in it. There's some terrible CGI. There's some brilliant CGI. There's some parts at the end when the child does come back to life and is on a bit of a killing rampage where there's a fight scene that is half with an actual child and half with a clear cardboard cutout of a child.
And is it when he punches it and the head falls off?
Oh, mate, honestly, it's like some of the scenes you think, wow. But then it's so weird because you'll see him like body slam this fake doll that's clearly made out of rice, but then the next time will be an elbow drop on an actual child's head. And you're going, well, where's the line, man? Where's the line? But I've got to say, I rewatched it. I did enjoy it very, very much so. It took me back to when it petrified me. That film is what got me into these B-type horror films back then. Something that made me think, I am petrified of this. This really scares me. I
have fond memories of the film because when I was growing up, we used to have NTL.
I know what you mean, the NTL dial-up type thing.
Yeah, and but we had like 50 channels, and one of the channels was TNT, which played movies. This was a reoccurring, and you know, like the time when Bravo used to play a lot of horror films. So Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary 2, the one with Edward Furlong in it, the sequel.
I've never seen the second one.
Yeah, so they were on quite regularly. But the first one in particular, I remember watching quite a lot of the times. And you're right, it is quite gory. There's quite open brain scenes and stuff like that.
Open brain scenes, and I didn't realise Matey Boy does get his Achilles tendons killed. He also gets his lips slashed off.
Yeah.
There's some pretty gruesome scenes in it, to be fair.
I put it on tape on the recording. This is the only Stephen King book that I stopped reading because it was too much.
I remember you telling me,
yeah. It's just, I don't know if I was just going through a bad spat of like not sleeping well and that kind of stuff, and thinking this isn't helping that.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah.
But I got to the digging up his, because in the book his child, like I say, does get hit by a truck, and like I say at the time, in the book it was only animals that they put in the pet cemetery that has this mystic powers to bring those pets back to life. But in the book, it tells you that they come back not like what they were.
No, soulless is the thing.
Yeah, soulless.
Which they do say in the film.
Yeah.
But in the film, they did add the fact that it's happened before.
Yeah, and I couldn't really remember the film when I was reading it, and then getting to the bit where he's digging up his son and it was just, and maybe that shows how good Stephen King is. You know, they got to the point where I was like, actually, I cannot, because it wasn't gory or graphic. It was just the idea.
It was just a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it played really well into obviously exploring the relationship they had with his son, so that ultimately he does dig him up. And yeah, I didn't finish it. I just thought, I know the end, so that that's fine.
I've got to say, even the scene where the son does get hit by a truck, it's you don't see anything. You're not seeing anything. It's just, you see the bottom of a truck and then a shoe fly. But it is one of those scenes, it's just head in hands.
It's horrible.
My God, it's awful. It's just, again, there's a lot of, why are you not watching your child? But
also quite brave of Stephen King because he himself was part of a road traffic accident.
He was.
Yeah,
and then he wrote a film afterwards.
Yeah, he was hit by a car, wasn't he? He was going for a walk.
Really?
Yeah.
I would just also like to add, April 5th next year, you're going to see the remake of Pet Sematary.
Yeah, now I've heard.
Have you seen the cast list?
No.
Can you load the cast list while we're talking?
I will get it up and we'll come back to it.
Because there's, what's his name, who was the Trinity Killer?
John Lithgow.
Yes.
John Lithgow.
Yes, I'm assuming he's going to play the old man.
I hope he don't play the child, because that would just be...
No, I would watch that.
But it's not a huge cast, but when I was, like I say, I did plan on writing notes. I did start looking into it, but I unfortunately never got a chance because you guys came on.
Yeah, sounds like you were awfully busy.
I've been really busy this weekend, if I'm honest with you, jobs and stuff. But I did look into that, and I didn't know that was coming out. I didn't know, and it's definitely something I'd be interested in, because it's weird. When I was watching it, I was thinking this is a film that could be remade better. I don't think you could remake Misery.
Yeah, if you were to remake Misery, you wouldn't add anything to it, would you?
You wouldn't. It'd be a shot-for-shot film. But I mean, Kathy Bates took the Oscar for that. but you could remake this better.
Yeah,
in my eyes.
Pet Sematary is coming out. Is it going to be a Netflix film?
I'm not too sure if I'm honest.
I would imagine so, because I think Netflix have done some sort of deal, like the Mist TV series and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
of course,
a lot
yeah.
of them have gone to the Netflix.
Yeah, because I the thing is, I don't always believe the hype nowadays, but it has been pinned as the scariest adaptation of a Stephen King book to a film.
As soon as I hear that, I stop listening.
Yeah,
So-
but this one, it keeps coming out every now and again. I see a post on Facebook saying like new writers of Stephen, Pet Sematary are calling it the scariest thing anyone's ever seen. You're right. John Lithgow is playing the neighbour across the road in it,
Which works perfectly in my eyes.
Yeah, Jason Clarke's in it as well, who we might remember from the Terminator film We Try and Forget. That was like the Genesis one.
I would just like to point out, anyway, I've got something for you after the podcast.
I think I've just killed that spider that was crawling around. I just felt something on my neck.
I was going to say, it's not where it was a minute ago.
Larry! I think I've killed him. Yeah.
Quickly, put in the Pet Cemetery.
Hey!
Full circle.
No one really on that list that I know other than those two, so I'm not going to start clicking on it and start looking into it. But I'll watch the remake. I'll see what that does.
Definitely. You weren't watching the cinema with me, though, were you?
No, because if it comes out on Netflix, it probably won't be at the cinema. But that links into some of the Netflix films, because there's quite a few Netflix ones now, aren't there? So there's Gerald's Game's out, which is one of the ones I've watched, and also 1922 is a Stephen King one that's on Netflix.
No.
Oh yeah, it's got Tom Jane in it as well. So you might want to check that one out.
Tom Jane's a running theme through these films.
Tom Jane is a bae. Honestly, the only person that's more bae than Tom Jane is...
No, let me guess. James Cameron Woodsey.
Tom James Kieran Woodsey. Thomas James Kieran Woodsey.
Do you want me to go next, James?
Which one are you going to do? Which one are you going to enlighten us?
I'm going to big hitter.
Go. I'm also going for a big hitter, so I don't think we can go wrong with.
Okay, I've just got mine in order of when they came out. So the next in my chronological order.
Oh my god, so am I. You and I, mate, in tune.
So I'm going 1994. Probably the fan favorite we put out on social media this week. Shawshank Redemption.
Love this film.
I would just like to point out that somebody made a comment to you, James, about how I'm on this podcast and I've never seen Shawshank. I have seen Shawshank Redemption.
You watched it not long back, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched it like when I was on Nights a month ago. So yes, I've seen it. Love it. Yep. Brilliant, beautiful, gorgeous.
1994, directed by Frank Darabont. This stars Tim Robbins as the main lead as Andy. You've got Morgan Freeman in it as Red.
As Red the Irishman.
Red the Irishman. In the book, he is a white Irishman.
They do make reference to it in the film. Then they say, why do they call you Red? And he just says, must be because I'm Irish.
And then the camera stays on him for a few seconds and he starts smiling. You're like, yeah, we all get that. Bob Gunton's in it as the Warden Norton. Now, Bob Gunton is always a warden, or in Patch Adams, he's like the chief of medicine.
He's always the upstart. He's always like, no, you can't do this. That's not proper.
Is he the guy that's just a bit of a prick that he does the whole beer scene with?
No, that's Clancy Brown. No, this is the warden. The warden who makes him do the taxes and stuff like that.
The main guy. Yeah.
So the warden of the prison is Bob Gunton. Clancy Brown's Captain Hadley.
Who's obviously the Kurgan.
Well, I'm going to go into that in a second. Yeah, and William Sadler is in it as well. Now, William Sadler is very diverse because we may have known him from Die Hard 2, where he plays the weird naked guy at the beginning of the martial arts.
He's the weird naked martial arts bloke.
And he's also deaf in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah. And the only other thing I've ever seen him in, Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
Just randomly in there.
So William Sadler. Clancy Brown playing Captain Hadley. Yes, you're right. We do know as the Kurgan, but also trivia, ladies and gentlemen. He also plays Krusty Krabs in the SpongeBob SquarePants TV show.
That's where I was going
and
with
he sings the title theme tune. So the title theme tune that everyone knows, that's Clancy Brown.
So if Tom Jane is your boy, and your boy, I think to constitute as someone.
My boy, if I'm honest.
No, I was going to say, to be your boy, you've got to not be like top end. You've got to be underrated. Clancy Brown's my boy.
Yeah.
I love Clancy Brown.
See, you're my boy, but you are top end. So
the story of the Shawshank Redemption, if there's a person on the planet who has not seen this, is it's 1947.
A month ago, me.
That's why we do the podcast.
Exactly.
These films.
I'm winning.
The film, the year is 1947, and as we said, Tim Robbins plays Andy Dufresne, who's convicted of a double murder charge at the very opening scene in the movie. So he's convicted of his wife and his wife's lover. Despite declaring his innocence, he's given 2 life sentences at Shawshank Redemption. We are introduced to Shawshank Redemption within the opening 4 minutes of the film. We've thrown straight into it. I don't want to go into the film. This is inspired by a short story, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, isn't it? So which appeared in one of the ensembles of short stories that Stephen King did. And the reason why I don't want to go into it too much, I'm just going to talk about the first 10 minutes as the main bit, but it's because actually this is a really important film that if you haven't seen it, or even if you have and you haven't seen it for a while, go back and watch it in its entirety, because I forgot certain parts of it and I found myself, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes long, just going through it going, oh yeah, this bit, yeah, this bit. And then going, oh yeah, but at the end, and just trying to remember and then just going along with it. Because the first time I watched Shawshank Redemption, I didn't see what everyone was on about. I was like, why do people keep saying this is like...
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
right.
did not hit me the first time I watched it, how good it was. I just went, oh yeah, so I've seen prison films before. I've seen someone declaring their innocence, that kind of thing. So I didn't really get what the whole fuss was about it. And then when I rewatched it, I rewatched it a few years ago and liked it. Rewatched it this week, loved it, thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I do think people should watch it for what it is in its entirety and not let me kind of say the main plots to it. But what's really, really interesting about this film, and why I would say go back and rewatch it, is Andy Dufresne's character as it is, the Tim Robbins characters. Can you remember much about him in it?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think I'm fairly clued up.
He's a really interesting character because at the beginning, again, without going into details,
he cost him some cigarettes in that first night in the big house.
Yes, but in the opening scene where he's in court and going through it, you do as a viewer kind of think, did he do it? Because he
comes across pretty dickish, doesn't he?
He comes across, quite sadistic. The judge even refers to him as saying, I don't trust you because you're a cold, icy stare.
Yeah.
And then when we're introduced to him going into Shawshank, into the prison yard.
It's almost as if he belongs.
Yeah, one scene you got Morgan Freeman saying a stiff breeze could blow him over, this idea, but then the next scene, Morgan Freeman, who narrates the film, will say things like, he walks around the prison yard like he's a Sunday afternoon walking through the park. And so you really don't know this character, you really can't judge him at the beginning of the film. And then what happens is through great directing is you're introduced to this character and his backstory and his motives and who he is. And that I think is the best release. It plays its time. It plays to the duration of the movie. It doesn't give you everything you need to know in the first 10 minutes like, a rock movie might do.
Yeah, definitely.
So as a character study, Tim Robbins is absolutely brilliant in this, as is Morgan Freeman. What better person to be in a film as your supporting actor, but then also to narrate it with that wonderful voice that he's got, similar to your own, James.
Yeah, I was going to say.
First 10 minutes of the film, like I said, we pull up at Shawshank and we are introduced to a busload of fresh prisoners going in. You've got all the inmates rattling the cages as they're coming off the bus. You've got
trying to spook them.
Yeah, and they're all taking bets on which one's going to crack first. You've got Clancy Brown, who we talked about as Captain Hadley.
He's a sadistic guard, isn't he?
Yes.
Captain of the guards.
And this is a time where they are enforcers, aren't they? They are battens out, beatings.
Yes. Yeah. Do as you're told or you will learn.
And he's in their face as they're coming off the bus. There's no private space, right away that, that you're introduced to this idea that there's no freedom, that's gone now. Coming off the bus, he's right there in their faces. They're walking. He's not shouting. He's just there saying, "I'm here," and I rule you now.
As I recall, the delousing scene. So I really didn't like the delousing scene.
Yeah, then
it's the first time I've
made
been
you feel uncomfortable.
Possibly, I think it's because this is going to sound really stupid because I watched it quite young and it's always been a favourite film of mine. I think it might have been the first time I've seen male nudity in a film, and it was just like thrown down.
It hasn't been since, though, has it? You've seen a bit.
You've seen plenty of male nudity scenes.
Yeah, well, you don't close your windows
because I know you're looking.
Well, I love that about you, James.
Because he's so quick, isn't he, with his responses?
His responses are great.
Honestly,
the fact you stare through windows.
You're the funny guy, James. So in the first 10 minutes, pulled off the bus, you're introduced to Clancy Brown's character. They're handcuffed together, walked into Shawshank. You've got all the prisoners taking bets on which one's going to crack. As they go into Shawshank, the camera pans up, and then we start to see the prison itself and how big it is. And then, like I say, they're led in. They're towing the line, this yellow line, where the warden comes across and basically says 2 rules: 1 is no swearing, 2 live by the Bible. Kind of ironic because then Clancy Brown's character gives this monologue of pretty much swear words the whole, like just consistently after that. They're deloused, they're washed, they're put into their cells. And here we are, we're in Shawshank, we're in there in the first 10 minutes. And then it is essentially 19 years of Andy Dufresne's character in Shawshank and everything that goes on from day-to-day prison life, escaping the sisters, which is the kind of, the friendly men in the prison.
Describe it to us, Aaron.
They like massages in the showers.
I was going to say the rapist gang, right?
Yes. Surviving
rapists.
Surviving the wardens, surviving the other staff. You've got all those kind of bits into it. And we're slowly introduced to this character, and it's just a brilliant, brilliant film. I cannot really rate it enough. I think
so
it's
as I say,
absolutely
you've
brilliant.
changed your mind then.
100%. 180 reversal, in my opinion, of this. Yeah.
Mine for me, without going into spoilers, is it's the small things like Brooks was here, and it's got my favourite line on it.
I love that bit.
And then also at the end, Red was here too. I like that bit. Yeah. But for me, it's the favourite line because it's one of the, when you see a film, sometimes you do the line in your head and then you take notice of it. It's Morgan Freeman's very soft voice going, "How often do you notice a man's shoes?" And then you just find yourself going.
This film, not only is it like riddled with good acting and storytelling, but as you're alluding to there, the dialogue in this film is phenomenal. A couple of the things you said, I've got written down here. On the outside, as an honest man, straight as an arrow, it took coming to prison to become a crook. Brilliant sentence.
I absolutely love this film.
Yeah. Hope can drive a man insane on the inside. It's all these kind of... It's just brilliant. It's not how you or I would talk.
No.
Yeah, but it is a...
Maybe we should.
Maybe we should, yeah.
I've got to say, I watched this prison film in a prison and...
because of your job, right? I feel like we've never described what your job was.
We mentioned it in episode 1.
Okay.
I don't like to talk about it, but I've got to say, I'm in the environment quite a lot, and it is very realistic on that side of things. Not the guards and the way it looks and this and the other. It is more just that hope can drive a man wild, and that's crazy and stuff. That is also very true. When I watched it, I was like, these are all things that over my career, I've heard somebody say, or I've seen it all. So it was, not only was it a fantastic film and a fantastic character study, like you say, it was very realistic.
Yeah.
I've got a genuine question for you then, Sam.
Yeah.
When did you watch it? A month ago?
Yeah, about a month ago.
Since then?
Yeah.
How often have you been noticing what's on a man's shoe?
I've always noticed a man's shoes, to be fair. I always
Is this something you've been picking up now? Just when he walks past going, wait a minute.
Look at his shoes.
Look at his shoes.
I always look at shoes, my friend. I always look at shoes.
I've got nothing more on it other than that. I just, thought it was an absolute brilliant film.
I think it's on my top 10. I love that film.
It is IMDb's highest rated film of all time.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's got a 9.3 rating.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I'd love it.
Yeah, good stuff. I've got nothing more to add on that. Oh, other than, like I say, the final bit that I thought was really, really good in the first 10 minutes is as they're all taking bets on who the first one to crack is, and I'm only bringing this up because we've talked about it just now. When one of them does crack, and there's the infamous scene where the captain beats he actually kills a person, doesn't he? He beats him to death.
He definitely makes him brain dead. I don't know if
he does. He kills him.
They
find out that he died the next day from the beating.
Oh, yeah, because the doctor didn't care, did he?
Yeah, but then the line just before it fades to black in the opening scene is Andy didn't make a noise all night. So there right away you're like, is he a killer? Like, what is it about this guy? Really, really good. James, please entertain my ears with your voice.
So out of curiosity, I've got to come up with a film now after the Shawshank Redemption.
I think I know which one you're going for.
No, seriously, mate. If anyone can do it, it's you, babe.
Right. And, if you're going to force mine, I'll have to go for Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining.
Amen.
Never seen it.
What?
I'm lying.
Oh, my.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
Oh.
James, it's a joke. I don't lie to you. I love you, babe.
Stanley Kubrick, director of Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, one of my favourite comedies of all time.
Let's be honest, he did some amazing. He's an absolute mastermind.
Full Metal Jacket, huge fan. And A Clockwork Orange. Just three of the many
films.
It's
my favourite film of all time.
And that got Andy McDowell in it.
Yeah. We love Andy McDowell.
And it's set on Normandy Beach.
So you play that game, Sugar?
Stars John Candy as well. No, John Goodman. So Jack is a recovering alcoholic.
Yes.
Shocking.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, aspiring writer. Sensing a lot of tropes here.
Yeah.
He gets a job in an off-season... So he's an off-season caretaker of a historic hotel. So basically there's no staff and there's no guests. So it's just him and his family. So they move in and they take it. So he's got to look after everything, electrical, things like that. So it's a dry building as well. There's no alcohol in it. It's isolated.
You mean that hotel with the bar in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
There's no alcohol there, is it? They've taken the alcohol off. So that's what it's because they know about drinking. It's a point in the film. So he slowly goes crazy through his supernatural events that happen. He keeps seeing these images. And I've never read the book on this one. And I always thought, is it implied or is it not implied? Is it him going crazy or is it the supernatural elements of the hotel.
It's a combination of him as an unstable character.
Yep.
And in the book, you're privy to more of his backstory as to why he's unstable.
Yes.
It's the supernatural presence of the hotel, and it's the isolation of being snowed in.
And do you know what's really funny there is I've just told you a synopsis of the story, very basic, and I've not mentioned The Shining at all because I think that's the part of the film that lets it down the most.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's the kid has
That
the
and the
ability to
snow.
telepathically connect with everyone, and that's called The Shining. Also, the cook who...
Or the Shinin. The one other character they go, you got the Shinin.
I've always pronounced it as the
Yeah.
Shinin just to wind people up. I've not seen The Shining. I've seen the Shinin.
I love your jokes.
So stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, and Danny Lloyd. Danny Lloyd's the child.
Very small cast.
Very small cast. And the cook
Very
is pointless,
small
isn't it?
child.
Because the cook's at the beginning and comes back at the end. And you just think, wow, you got a big credit rating.
He
for that.
commutes a long way to not do anything for the storyline, doesn't he?
It's one of these films like Shawshank Redemption. I don't want to get into too much because to me it's one of my top 20 films of all time. I love this film. Coming off the set though, this film was not well received.
No, especially by Stephen King.
Stephen King hates this film. It's one of his worst.
I don't think he hates it. He wasn't a fan, he said.
Apparently he's got better on it now, but it's nothing like. And it's what you said. He doesn't like Jack Nicholson as the character because of the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He said it's about choice. The character in the book is all about choice. He chooses alcoholism over his duty to his family. But once you've seen Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you're supposed to think you kind of are on his side because you liked Murphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So he thought it was the wrong choice. He hated Shelley Duvall because all she does is scream in it.
Yeah.
But
To be fair, I hate her in that as well.
The audiences didn't like it.
no,
God, I hated
but I would
her,
like
mate.
to point
Hated
out
her.
some of the stuff that Kubrick did to the staff,
Yes.
the cast, is ridiculous. So there's a 30-second scene with Nicholson at a bar. They started shooting it at 9 and they didn't finish till 10 o'clock at night for 30 seconds of film. He was a perfectionist. He used to pull pranks on Shelley Duvall. He used to purposely give her jump scares so that she always had this petrified look on her face. Her hair started falling out by the end of it. She was so stressed. Jack Nicholson refused to learn his lines because they were constantly being rewritten. So he would learn them about 5 minutes before he filmed them because that's the only way he knew they weren't going to get rewritten.
He improvised the famous line as well, here's Johnny.
Stanley Kubrick didn't understand that, so it nearly didn't make it. Because obviously, here's Johnny. He's an American Johnny
Talk
Carson.
show host.
Yeah, they announce him going, "Here's Johnny."
Yeah.
This is an interesting fact that I found out. The original door is a fake door. Jack Nicholson is a former volunteer fireman.
Oh, right.
Cleaned it off in one hit. So they had to put in an actual door.
I know.
And I just thought that was
Strong,
amazing.
strong man.
That infamous scene where he's knocking down the door with the axe, and again, this is going back to The Shining. Maybe more than the others have got scenes where you're like, "All right." Even if
That's got a lot of infamous.
if you
Yeah.
watch that for the first time now, you will watch that going, right, I've seen this in even things like
Yeah.
The Simpsons have ripped
Yeah,
scenes
Family
off
Guy
it.
and-
You'll watch that and go,
yeah.
that's where this is from. That's this film.
So there's this infamous scene where what they call what I call cutaway weirdness. So Jack Nicholson sees a rabbit and things like that, a man in a rabbit's costume and that sort of thing. And you see a lot of that in other films now. It's just cutaway randomness. Just
Yeah, there's the man in the bear
that's out
suit,
place.
isn't there?
Yeah, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Film obviously ends with Jack Nicholson's character in a picture from a massacre that happened 20 years ago and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I really like this film.
Yeah, just being on the Shelley Duvall bit, when she is in the bathroom during the axing of the door scene, she was sleep deprived. They wouldn't let her sleep the night before. And also they told her the axe won't come through the door. So some of that is actually terrified screams.
Apparently Kubrick was just horrible to her.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he wanted her, because when you see her, she's got horrible bags under her face. Apparently he just was purposely horrible to
She
her.
took some time off filming after that as well, didn't she?
Don't
I don't think
blame
she
her.
appeared in much afterwards. But Kubrick has that reputation, doesn't he? I know Clockwork Orange was riddled with issues with it as well.
Yeah. Apparently it stems from he's a perfectionist. But I would like to point out that everyone who's worked with him does say that it's some of the best.
Yeah,
they've ever-
he does get the best out of people.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, I know that a lot of people like working with Tim Burton because if the scene's like Johnny Depp must walk through the door and say hello, does it once, he's like, dump. He's like, we don't need to shoot that again. So a lot of people go back to Johnny Depp because to go back to Tim Burton because it's like, we'll get it done in a week because it just does not. Yeah, so it's knowing how to get the best out of your actors, isn't it? I love The Shining. I love it because any keen listener knows it's in my top 10 films. Personally, it's my favorite horror film. I like the book. The book does differ quite substantially from the film. In the last third, the endings are very different.
The character of Jack is a lot different as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I remember so reading it, That was his problem. Is Jack Torrance?
I suppose
his
for
character's
me,
name.
I think for me, it's because I'd seen the film before I read the book. When I read the book, I read it as Jack Nicholson. So it was already decided for me what that character looks like. The thing with the film, my dad, when I watched it, looked shockingly like Jack Nicholson at the time. He had the long black hair that was a bit balding on the top. He wore lumberjack shirts. He carried an axe around everywhere he went. No, my dad didn't. And
He does now.
and he like wore jeans and that kind of stuff. So it was really like growing up. I remember watching that film and then like literally after finishing it, my dad was just like, "Tea's ready," and I'm like, oh! He just looked like Jack Nicholson. So it terrified the hell out of me. Issues with it then is the ending. So in the book, not to it came out years ago, didn't it?
Come on, mate.
It came out years ago. So in the book, he does the Stephen King thing where it's not an axe, it's a croquet mallet that he's running around the
You see, that's
hotel.
just not as scary.
It's not as scary, no, and he's not going to knock well, maybe Jack Nicholson could. He also destroys himself with it, so he beats himself to death, and then it's like it basically cracks and you realise that it's not human. It's like usual Stephen King. You read it, and then the last 5 pages, the bad guy's a giant ant or something,
Big space turtle,
big spider, that kind of thing.
Are you joking right now?
No. So at the end of it, and also the boiler blows up in the mansion, the hotel blows up in the book. So that's how it ended. But they didn't have the budget to do that, so they went for the ending of the film. But
That sounds bloody awful.
But in the book, or in the film, you notice the boiler's a reoccurring thing, isn't it? Yeah. So in the book as well, it's you best maintain it. And of course, when he spirals into insanity, he forgets to service the boiler, results in it being blown up. And they didn't have the budget to do it. I read a brilliant thing on Twitter the other week where someone goes, the most unbelievable thing about The Shining is that hotel closing during ski season. Bullshit. Have you seen that snow? Like, there's no way that hotel will have shut down. Lady in the bath scene, the blood coming out the elevators, the little boy on the tricycle and the two twins. It's just brilliant. Dr. Sleep is coming out next year with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
This is the sequel to The Shining.
It is.
This is Danny grown up, and where we're told a little bit.
Told me about the book.
We're told a little bit more about The Shining in this one. So, if for anyone who is interested in next year's release, it's following Danny years later, struggling to deal with what happened at the hotel that evening, and he now drifts. He gets jobs in care homes because he can use his shining to talk to those that are dying, and that's why it's called Dr. Sleep. And we are introduced to these gang that are trying to find people that have the shining, and they extract the shining out of people by torturing them slowly. So they're going across country trying to find people that got the shining to slowly kill them to absorb that power, and that's essentially what the film's going to be. I didn't really particularly like the book.
That doesn't sound great.
No, the book was quite boring.
Sounds like I've seen it with the Dark Tower.
Yeah,
seen parts of that.
I don't know, and it's this film with Ewan McGregor in it. I love Ewan McGregor, but he does do some quite bad films. So I don't know. Rebecca Ferguson's in it as well, so we'll see what that happens. But yeah, Shining, brilliant film. I loved it.
Sammy?
Just one more, and that's 1408.
Not seen it.
Done.
I watched it literally as you walked in the door. I only finished watching it.
That's not true, because you were about to do something else when I walked in the door.
Well, you guys got to make a sandwich.
Is that code?
No, I really want a sandwich. It's it's really
Muttley.
It's a weird one because I've had a very busy day today because I've had my daughter and stuff, and so I've sort of been watching it on and off throughout the day, pausing it, putting it back on, pausing it, putting it back on, and I went through that film the whole way going, "This film is awesome. This film is so bad. This film is awesome. This film is so bad."
And that was it. John Cusack in general.
Well, I know John Cusack. He's an absolute cock block, that lad. But it was such a weird film. I remember watching it years ago. I remember watching it when it first came out. It's 2007, was it? I think.
Yeah, about then.
2007. So it's about an author who writes books. An author. An author.
Is he a recovering alcoholic?
James. Yes.
Oh my God, shocking.
And he writes books such as the 10 most haunted graveyards, 10 most haunted motels, this sort of thing. He gets this letter in the post saying it's a postcard from this hotel called the Dolphin in New York, and it just says, "Do not stay in room 1408. So he does a bit of research on it. Turns out a lot of people killed themselves in this room. Rings them up. He wants to stay in the room. They're outright saying, no, you can't. You're not allowed to stay in this room. He finally gets there, finally finds a law that says if you have a room free, you have to give it to us. And then, so John Cusack's character, he then meets Samuel L. Jackson, who is playing this big T-Rex.
Yep. Call back to last week's episode.
Absolutely. So he plays the owner of the hotel. He sits down with him. He's trying everything to make him not stay in 1408.
I like that scene.
That's brilliant. He offers him whiskey, he offers him cigars. John Cusack's got a cigarette behind his ear that says, I don't smoke anmoore. It's just right.
Saving that one for something, isn't he?
Does he save it for the end of the film? By the end of it, is he smoking?
I couldn't say that, James, because it's within the last 30 years. So yeah, he smokes it then. He smokes it like a boss as well. So they're having this whole scene. Yeah. So they have this whole scene of him just trying to make him not go in 1408. And John Cusack's character basically says, I know what you're saying. Put me in the room because I'm going to write something on it. People are going to stay here more. You're going to make more money out of me. Samuel L. Jackson says, no. This hotel runs at 90% capacity constantly. We don't need you. As selfish as it sounds, I do not want to clean up your blood when you're dead. Out
of curiosity, how long is this film?
It's 1 hour 45.
So far, it sounds like the majority of the film is a man not going into a room.
Now, I want to tell you something, James. That film is 1 hour 45. It seems about 4 hours long.
Right.
Now,
at what point does he get into the room?
Quite early. It's within sort of 20, 25 minutes. Right. I've got to say, that could just be me because I watched it throughout the day at certain parts between what I've been doing today. But it's just one of those, as soon as he gets in that room, it is non-stop. There's a lot of scary bits. There's a lot of jump horror. Although, to me, as we spoke about before, sometimes the endings of Stephen King's films can go off a bit.
Oh, they're awful.
I felt this. I'm not saying what it is, but I felt that did for me because it's one of those films that you go, oh, the ending. But there's about 8 endings because then he wakes up somewhere else and he wakes up somewhere else and there's more.
Just doesn't know how to end.
That's a classic horror trope.
Yeah, of course it is.
Final scare.
It does it way too many times. You know what I mean? But the film for me, as soon as he gets in that room, it is very interesting. So much happens whilst he's in this room of supernatural things. I very much enjoyed it until the end where I was just really thinking, come on, guys. Granted, I knew you guys was about to record this and I was in a bit of a rush and stuff, but there was just one too many endings for me.
How... so if you haven't seen the film and you don't want to know how it ends, stop listening in 3, 2, 1. How did it end?
So it ended with him burning the room.
Yeah, with him in it.
Yeah, so he gets given his bottle of whiskey that Samuel L. Jackson says, this is a gift for you. Because he tries it and goes, oh, very nice, because you can take that with you whilst you're in there. He makes a Molotov, dead. Yeah.
So there's 2 endings to that. There's an ending where he doesn't die.
Oh, really? So the very, very ending is him in the hotel room, which is burnt down. And there's an ongoing thing about his daughter dies of an illness. It looks like cancer in the film, and he's stood looking around, smoking that final cigarette that he smoked just before the room got set on fire. And he hears his daughter say, "Daddy, come," sort of thing. And he turns around and goes, "Oh yeah," as if to say, "That's why I'm here." And he turns around, he disappears as a ghost. But oh my God, the film ends so many times. So
the next ending where Samuel Jackson's in the car and he's on the back seat burnt and figured.
Yeah.
That's a horror trope. That is such a Stephen King thing. You think the film's over, you think it's all like sunshine and birds singing, and then boom, one final scare before the credits roll.
He's finally been put in his coffin.
Yeah,
in the grave
there is another ending to the film. There's an ending where he gets out of the room at the end, and then he goes back and listens to his dictaphone when he's making notes for his next novel. Because you're right, he's doing these top 10 haunted because he's actually trying to find if the afterlife exists because he's lost his daughter.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in it himself. Yeah. He even says, "Look, I know you're lying to me. I know this is all just a big trick." There's a big scene in it.
Is that why people keep killing themselves in a room then? Because they all like hear a loved one or something?
They basically all lose their minds.
Well, in this one, at the end, he survives, he goes home and he's listening to his dictaphone and he can hear his daughter in the background. Yeah, so that's the other ending, which I thought was the better ending.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson listens to it in the car and hears the daughter in the
it's the other way around.
You see, up until that point, I wasn't interested. To be honest, I was just listening to you and I was like, oh, it sounds awful. Now you've got me a little hooked. I was like, oh, that sounds all right.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff that happened. To me, this is one of those films that have a certain scene that you wait for. But there was a fantastic scene where he can't leave the room. He's tried putting his key in, it's been snapped and been sucked in. He just cannot leave. And he stood at. Can you remember the film?
He's looking out the window.
He's looking out the window and he sees someone in the building opposite.
I love that scene.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? He's waving. He's going, help, help, help! Call the police! Call the police! Call the police! And this guy's looking at him, going as if obviously they can't hear each other, but he's going, what do you want? What do you want? And then after a little bit goes on, you start picking up that the guy on the other side of the street is mimicking.
He's starting to sync up to what he's doing, yeah.
And then it stops. John Cusack realizes, so he's doing the whole. It's a good couple of minutes.
He holds a lamp to his face,
and the other guy does it, and
then
just,
he sees
and as it's going, it's just getting, and it's so slow. It's such a slow reveal that you actually don't think the reveal is going to happen, and then it finally happens at this slow reveal, and it is John Cusack on the other side of the street, and he realizes, I'm screwed. I've got no help.
I love those scenes.
I was just saying, that sounds cool.
There's some amazing, like I say, this is why it was so amazing then bad, then amazing and bad, because there's some such amazing scenes in it.
For a second, I genuinely forgot we were recording. I thought we were just talking about it. So I was like, when are we watching this?
It's non-stop, that film. As soon as he gets in that room, it's just one thing after another after another. There's some amazing scenes.
Yeah, although a bad film, it's inspired by a short novel again. It's from the collection.
Which I actually now want to go and read.
Yeah, I've got. Well, it's from the collection Everything's Eventual, and it's the second to last short story in that collection. And that one, I remember watching it thinking, it's on the whole, it's not a great film. It's okay, like you said, there's certain parts to it, but that's the right horror. That's the horror I like, though. Spooky horror, supernatural. Things aren't what they seem. Kind of playing with the mind, playing with the audience, that kind of thing. I like that over gore and jump scares any day.
I was just say, he's got the right amount of supernatural for me.
Yeah, it's the right tone of film.
And there isn't really a lot of gore in it at all, is there?
No. I like it. Yeah, just creepy scenes where he's going around with the blue light and he sees all the blood that's been dry, that's been cleaned previous to him and stuff. Yeah, I quite liked it for those parts, but on the whole, it just didn't kind of come out the gates for me as a brilliant one. But 1408, I went to Sheffield. I went to Meadowhall in Sheffield, and I was shopping, and there's a cinema there, and I remember watching it there. Yeah.
No, I'd watch that. Calling me interested.
Yeah. It's worth. I don't think you'd walk away thinking it's amazing, but it's worth a watch just because some scenes are really good.
Right, super quick. Stephen King's Finner, 1996, directed by Tom Holland, who did Child's Play, Psycho 2, and Fright Night. So this is coming from a guy who knows how to do a horror film, or at least has attempted to do horror films previously. I'm going to sum this one up really quickly because I didn't enjoy it, and I suppose, James, you can counter-argue if you want.
No, I really remember liking the visuals.
Because that's my biggest downfall to the film is the visuals.
Oh, right, okay.
1996, the film follows Billy, played by Robert John Burke, who is an obese lawyer who accidentally hits and kills a gypsy with his car.
Yeah.
He accidentally, hits and kills a gypsy with his car. And because he's a lawyer and because all his mates are a judge and his other mates are cop and all these kind of mates that he's got, he gets acquitted of the crime without any real backlash for killing.
He gets nothing, does he?
He gets nothing. He gets off the hook so easily. Not to say that from the law system, he gets off it quite easily. But unfortunately, waiting for him outside of the courtroom is Tadzu.
I didn't know that was the name.
Tadzu, played by Michael Constantine, who is the father of the gypsy that has been hit and run and killed. He places a gypsy curse on the obese man, and the story or the horror is that every week this man loses 40 pounds. So he goes from being obese to a thinner.
And he is loving it at the beginning.
He's loving it at the beginning. He's on this, he can eat what he wants and drink what he wants, and he's losing weight, and he's found this new spring in life. But it's when it doesn't stop. And unfortunately, the gypsy also puts curses on the other people involved. So the judge, the copper, and anyone really who helped the lawyer to get off on the crime. One of them turns into like a lizard man. One of them gets this weird growth on the side of his face. I don't know. I just thought it was tacky. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't think the effects were good. You can't get away from Robert John Burke in a fat suit at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because obviously this wasn't method acting. He didn't put the weight on and lose it. That is a fat suit at the beginning. And then the scenes where he's really skinny, every time he lifts his shirt up, it goes to a still of like a really thin stomach. And you're
does
like,
it?
yeah, right. It's not him lifting his shirt, it's the cuts are bad.
I remember the scenes, but I don't remember much about it. So obviously I must be wrong then, because I thought he was like I thought he skinned up.
No, it's 2 or 3 times he lifts his shirt up and you're like, oh, that's really, that you could tell that they've just cut to scene of really thin person.
No, I take it back what I said then. Because that was the only bit I liked about the film. So obviously if that part's not what I remember, I don't like this film at all.
It's not like Christian Bale when he did like,
exactly,
Rescue Dog and that kind
thinking,
of thing, and the Machinist. Michael Constantine as well, playing the Indian gypsy is probably the only way to describe it. Again,
when
really,
you don't know which trope to go for,
exactly.
go for both.
Really bad outfit, made slightly worse by the fact that I'm pretty certain it's slightly racist as well.
It probably is.
Stephen King appears in this at the beginning as a pharmacist, who's giving out some drugs at the beginning. Again, not very interesting. This is, when you're watching a bad film, is because I got sidetracked with the fact that Joe, what's his name?
What's he been in?
Nah, this was the point. So there's a character in it, a side character, a real Italian bloke in it, who plays an Italian stereotype in it. His mum owns a restaurant, and every time they cut to him, he's eating meatballs and that kind of thing. Joe, I've got his name, Mantenga.
Is he play Cyrus in The Matrix? He's bald head and the
no,
go the one that betrays him.
That is a Joe. No, this guy was in Baby's Day Out. He played.
I know exactly who you mean. I know exactly who you mean.
I was watching it going, he's the guy from Baby's Day Out. And then for 10 minutes, I was convinced he was the lead in one of the NCIS spin-offs, like NCIS Nebraska or something.
NCIS Little Italy.
Yeah, kind of. I was like, I'm certain he was. I was certain he had like an NCIS show, and then I was like, it's bugging me what he's been in, and then
after research, you found out it was Baby's Day Out too.
No, but I figured it out, and I was watching it with my mate Josh, and I went, I know where I know him from, and he was like, who? And I says, he does the voice of Fat Tony in The Simpsons. And I googled it, and he does.
So you remember his name from the credits?
Yeah. That's the sign of a bad film when you're looking at he's not even like the supporting actor. He's like the secondary to the secondary character.
Oh, brilliant!
It's just not a good film at all. I didn't really care at the ending. The end, it kind of tells like a parable, like a old folklore. It kind of feels the script feels like he has to pass the curse on at the end, that kind of stuff. Yeah, just avoid it. I mean, Sam, would you watch it after that?
No, definitely
review?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
I'd
rather go for a piss.
What was your favourite part?
I went for a piss. All right, everyone. I went for the toilet. It's the first time I've ever needed the toilet.
Let's
during
find
one
out
of
when you
these.
went for a piss was the best banter we've ever had.
I wrote on a bit of paper, I need a piss, and they all went, go.
Just because I watched Fab, I'm just going to shoot in really quick as well, one that I don't want to talk about a lot, and that's Gerald's Game, 2017, the one from... was you going to do this one?
No.
Oh, right.
No.
Gerald's Game, which is on Netflix, came out last year, 2017. Directed by Mike Flanagan. It's, like I say, it's a Netflix film. There are only really 2 stars in this, and that is Bruce Greenwood, who, again, I thought was a lead in an NCIS program. I was like, isn't he in like CIS or something, or CSI or something like that?
He was Sideshow Bob, wasn't he?
No.
That's Kelsey Grammer.
Bruce Greenwood actually was in Star Trek iRobot, and he was in the core as well. And it's the
I know who you mean.
Yes,
I know who you mean.
So he's the guy.
I got too excited.
Doesn't he look like he could be the lead in
He
like...
does. Do you know what he looks like? He plays John F. Kennedy in a film about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
He does,
weirdly
yeah.
does look like John F. Kennedy from a certain...
It's also got Carla Gugino in it as well, who I was, again, racking my brain. I was like, I know her from somewhere. Not at the museum in Sin City, but it's actually Wayward Pines. Can you remember that TV series?
Yeah.
So she's the lead actor in that as well.
Brilliant that was.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name in that now. Matt Dillon's wife in that. So this is a real simple story. But when I was writing my notes afterwards, I was like, okay, so she plays Jesse. And I was like, what was his name? And for like 10 minutes, I was like, what was his name? Did they even say his name once in it? I was like...
You mean our Gerald?
Gerald's Game, yeah. I was like, what was his name? Gerald and Jesse go away for a romantic weekend in their summer house to try and rekindle their marriage, which from the beginning of the film, you kind of get the impression that it's failing. He's pulled out all the stops. He's loaded the fridge full of fantastic foods. He's got flowers on the bed, everything like that.
Don't laugh, Aaron.
I'm not going to laugh
Every time you tell the synopsis, you laugh.
I'm not going to laugh.
Don't laugh.
He then has planned a bit of kinkiness.
Oh, a bit of kinkiness.
That involve handcuffing Jesse to the bed for him to act out a kind of sexual fantasy with her to kind of put the flame back in their relationship.
Kind of how I feel about James sometimes.
Yeah. Although I think he could break any handcuff.
Oh, he's such a strong man.
Right, carry on.
Now the upset happens.
James's game.
What's his name?
What happens, unfortunately, is just after he sets the handcuffs on her and she starts to freak out because she doesn't really like it, he has a heart attack. Inconveniently for her because she's handcuffed.
He dies.
And he dies. And he falls off the side of the bed. This happens in the first 10 minutes. Our film is then essentially her trying to escape. is the film. Gerald's Game.
And losing her mind slightly.
Well, yeah. So we now enter So it's what we were talking about with some of Stephen King's novels, where sometimes they're best when it's just two characters in a room and it's a situation you dropped into. This one doesn't really pay off because it starts to spiral towards the mental game that she goes through. So she has voices that are represented through the dead husband and a personified version of herself standing at either side of the bed, and you're supposed to get the idea that
it's like the devil angel type thing.
Yeah, good and bad, hope versus despair. One saying give up, one saying no, when you're stronger than that. She has to battle coming to terms with her childhood, where we're shown flashbacks of certain tropes that we've already talked about in some of these other films. Those reoccurring themes. Randomly, an eclipse happened. That's thrown in there as well.
Obviously.
It's a perfect Sunday movie for Sunday afternoon film.
I quite enjoyed it.
Bung it on a Sunday if you've got nothing to do, or if you're monging out on the sofa with a hangover. It's an hour and a half. No, it doesn't really take off. It's another one where it's better if they stopped it before the end.
Yes, yeah.
There's a definitive point where if they stopped it, I would have gone, that's all right. It goes on for that extra 10 minutes where I went, oh, why did you put that in? And I'm not going to say why, but watch it. All the way through it insinuates something, and at the end when it explains it, you're like, "Whoa, where the hell did that come from?"
Why no?
Prepare for letdown.
Which I think your next film is going to have a similar thing to it. James, what's your next film?
Well, I was going to point out this is the one I've made the most notes on, so this isn't going to be short, boys.
Does it star Morgan Freeman?
Right, maybe. I'm just going to tell you that the director is someone called Lawrence Kasdan, and he's been a writer on The Empire Strikes Back, The Force Awakens, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow, we've still got caliber here.
So we're talking about caliber. So as a writer, this was him as a director. This is your cast list: Thomas Jane, Damian Lewis, Morgan Freeman, Timothy Olyphant, Tom Sizemore. He had to crash at some point. Jason Lee and Donnie Wahlberg. This film is called Dreamcatcher, and my first note is, what the F have I just watched?
The book's not much better.
Honestly, James, you are so witty.
I mean,
mate.
the book is bad, but yeah, the film is bollocks, isn't it?
So it's about four friends who all share a psychic connection. I'm done.
Wait, hold on. There's a psychic connection in Stephen King books.
One sentence in, I'm already, what the
Which
hell?
one's the author and which one's the
right, so I
alcoholic?
can't remember which one the author is, but Jason Lee's the alcoholic.
Yes.
Right, so this film was written after Stephen King had a car accident. He got hit by a car, didn't he? So this is the film that he got. The story he wrote straight after. I know this because randomly the main character, Damian Lewis, gets hit by a car for no real reason within about 10 minutes of the film.
He wants Damian Lewis to get hit by a car.
It does give it a very small backstory, but at the same time, you could easily explain that by just going, well, he's a psychic.
So you could easily explain this story that Stephen King was still high on drugs.
Yeah, but you and I had an interesting conversation about this once. He wanted to do to the toilet what the Psycho director, Hitchcock, did for the shower.
Yes.
So you and I were having a conversation years ago about how Stephen King believes the bathroom is the scariest place.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it? Because I thought it was fascinating very quickly.
Stephen King often writes a horror scene involving a bathroom because in human nature, that's where most horrors are found. That's where we find a lump. That's where we find blood in the toilet. That's where we find, it's a vulnerable place to be. So in a lot of reoccurring, so if you look at the Shining scene in the bathroom, a lot of the times a horror is unleashed in a bathroom because we can relate to that. So I like that.
I thought that was really clever. That's brilliant. So,
but that is the only bit of this film that I like.
So he makes a miraculous recovery, and the friends all go on a hunting trip. Okay, you with me so far?
So far, mate.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So the friends go to their annual hunting / cabin trip, where they encounter a group of parasitic aliens that take, that sentence, and then. I would like to point out that I don't say this. This is Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, who has given us such delights as Shawshank Redemption.
And God in Bruce Almighty.
He uses the words, and this is what these aliens are referred to throughout the rest of the film, shit weasels.
That sounds like something Stephen King would write, though.
Yeah.
So, they come and enter through Uranus.
Where they exit through one's anus.
Oh my God, this is so bad.
Hey!
I like it, mate. I like it.
This is so bad. This film is awful. These are some of my notes. It's got flashbacks, another trope, to when the four friends see a disabled,
Dog Donnie
Wahlberg's character who has mental difficulties, and they pick up a lunchbox, and one of the characters goes, "This is a Scooby-Doo lunchbox," and I'm thinking, why is that relevant?
Yeah.
Would the story be different if it went this Batman one? And then we get a recurring, right, so Damian Lewis is like a 40-year-old man, and later on in the film, when it's going down, turns to, like Jason Lee says, "Scooby-Doo, we got work to do." It's like, what? What is that callback to? It comes up at the end. It's like something that they do their lives around. Is Scooby-Doo, we got work to do. Oh my God.
It's riddled with problems, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Can we talk about Parasite, Damien Lewis?
What, with his...
When he turns really British.
When he turns really British.
He's brilliant,
which is really weird because I don't believe his British accent. He's a bloody British actor. He's more unbelievable. "Hello, sir."
Yeah.
The alien's called Mr. Grey. I'm having enough here. I've had enough.
There's a scene where there's a metaphor scene, isn't there, where he talks about he remembers things and he has to delete things, and then it cuts to this scene where he's in his mind.
I would like to point out, I actually really like that for a film about mind control. So he locks himself away in his mind. When he visualizes his mind, it's a really old school library. It's like a circular.
Yeah.
And so the alien's in it, and he's locked himself away. And so the rest of his mind, the alien controls, except for this one room. And the alien's trying to get memories of Donnie Wahlberg's character. So he has to run out, grab the memories, and move them to the locked room where the alien can't get them. And I thought it was really cool representation. That was it.
If you're as confused about Morgan Freeman's role in this from listening to James' description of the film, watch the film and you'll still be confused because that's not needed in it anyway.
My favourite thing is him and Tom Sizemore have the same job, which is stop the aliens. So they're trying to kill each other, and you're just thinking, why? This is important to write, and I wonder if you two have seen this film, haven't you?
Unfortunately.
Yes. Because I'm fairly certain one of you told me to watch it. I've written down here 3 times, why is this film called Dreamcatcher? Explain. Oh God, this film is so bad. Oh, and I've forgotten my favourite bit. When Damian Lewis is in his mind, he rings Tom Jane on the gun. That happens. I've not had a mental breakdown. That happens because Tom Jane's in a car with Tom Sizemore and has to answer the gun.
I'm watching this film again. Actually,
what kind of coverage do you think you get on that?
I've got to say, this film is not something that I would have watched many, many, many years ago. But this was the film that my mother made me watch.
Wow, so she made you watch
Schindler's List and then this.
Right. She made me watch this because she used to fall on Fap over Damian Lewis.
Oh, after his Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
stage.
and she was like, "This is why."
Your mum fapping.
This was her material, mate. This was fat material for her.
Oh dear.
Yeah, mine was all about the anus, but she loved the Damian Lewis, bless her.
It's just bad. I remember the trailer. It was all the animals running in the same direction.
I did like that bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and one of the guys goes like, that typical voiceover is like, "What are they running away from?" And you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm intrigued. Stephen King. This looks interesting." But no, it's just. I remember watching that. And I can't remember who I was watching it with, but I remember the reaction at the end when they turn into aliens.
Are we ruining it at the end?
No, fuck no. At the end,
because I've got another page on that.
We're not ruining it. I feel like we're saving people.
Can we just be careful with the swear words there, Aaron?
Oh, sorry.
You son of a side. No. Sasquatch.
I've got a swear word coming up because it's what the person did. So he's watching it, and at the end, when one of them morphs into an alien, and then a person who's been in the film the whole time turns into the good version of the same alien.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I just witnessed someone break and just went, bullshit.
Who was that person?
Oh, I can't remember. I could just remember him shouting in anger.
There's some weird moments, like when Donnie Wahlberg's mum says goodbye to him, she does the touchdown celebration, and you go, why? Again, reference to Scooby-Doo, we got work to do. And then at one point, Timothy Olyphant, at the beginning of the movie, talks about movie cliches. I was like, fuck off. It's like, this is a Stephen King film, fuck off. And then he's talking to the alcoholic. I was like, shut up. Where's this film set? It's set in Derry, mate.
It's not good, is it?
Oh God! But weirdly, I'd never put this in a box. I'd never put this in
a hole.
I'd never put this in a hole. This film needs to exist. It's so
You're
bad.
Right. You're right. This is a film that, let's be honest, you've now seen it. 5-10 years down the line, you'll rewatch.
Exactly.
You will.
On the map, this is low, but it's not. It's watchable, and that's the glory of the map.
It's out of Sandler's hands, isn't it?
It's out of Sandler's hands. It's out of his grasp, but it's south. Oh God, this film, man, Dreamcatcher, watch it, please.
It's actually a bit of a Sam film, really, isn't it?
Actually, yeah, this is your territory. Yeah.
I enjoyed it when I watched it. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Did not have a clue what was going on, but
Mate, I've seen it recently.
It was
I still
pretty
don't know what
lights
was
and shit,
going on.
wasn't
I've read it and I still don't know what's going on.
Although I've got a question out there for listeners. If you could go back to me on why that film was called Dreamcatcher, I'd really appreciate
I
it.
imagine that's explained in the book, more, but in the film, I don't think it was referenced as to why they're calling it that. Sam, let's go full circle then, mate. Enders, have you got one more or are you done?
no, I haven't got any more.
Are you done?
I did say I'd watch Green Mile, which I did not, but I've also watched it within the last month. So if you want to discuss the Green Mile.
We're on an hour and a half, so we will start closing down. Green Mile it falls for me in that category of it's not a great like The Shining, Carrie, those ones. It's not a Dreamcatcher. It's like a fan favorite. I think it plays well to a lot of people personally.
Really?
Yeah, I think
the film's genius.
It's good, and God, the novel is just as long as the film. The novel is massive, but I don't think it's one of the masterpieces that's come out of Stephen King's writing. It's good. It's a good film. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
So you got Michael Clark Duncan in this as John Coffey, haven't you? Who's on death row after being falsely accused of a crime that he didn't commit.
I don't think we
Killing
can do
two
this film
children,
enough justice. I think we should shut this down because I actually think it's a masterpiece.
Do you? I'll tell you what, I'll rewatch it then, and then we'll get together. Yeah,
I mean,
because I love that film.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't make the Tom Hanks.
Percy.
Yeah. No, don't
We
get
get
wrong.
Percy from that. We get some amazing quotes from that. The film is genius.
Let's come back to this one because this one's brilliant.
Let's just say that I think it's just for me. Then it was just the context. I don't enjoy watching films set on death row. Maybe it's just a personal
fair
thing.
enough. Yeah. It's not set in the snow.
Yeah. For me, it's not a
Dreamcatcher set in the snow.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but Tom Hanks film. So I'm surprised we didn't bring it up in the Tom Hanks week.
I think it's because we said we were going to bring it up.
Just to clarify, I'm not saying it's bad. For me, it's not.
I get that.
Would you like to have a sit down, a few beers and watch it?
Yeah, but you got to remember as well that masterpiece ledge is very small. We can't put everything on it, so we can't. So for me, I reserve that for The Shining and Carrie and those.
Yeah,
kind of films
I don't know because I would put the Green Mile in the vault without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, we will watch it for that then.
Yeah.
For science, we'll rewatch it.
All right, I love science. Any science experiment, I'm up for.
I think as well, we probably can't do it in the time we've got left. Neither.
Well, actually, what we could do is then, for future reference, we could compare it to the old It that we grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely when It Part 2 comes out next year. Yeah. I mean, I did rewatch it. I've watched it 3 times now in the space of about 3 months. I just seem to keep putting it on, and it's quite an interesting.
Are we talking about the new or the original?
Yeah, so we're not doing the original because it was a film adaptation. Obviously, the lady in Australia made that very clear.
She put you in your
We're looking
place.
at It Part 1, The Losers Club, with Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, and what was interesting about it was going to go down the route of saying it's the most highest grossing horror film of all time.
Yeah,
was it really?
It came out last year, yeah.
Wow. Which I'm not surprised with.
I was just saying, not surprised. You can usually tell which film it is by what everyone dressed up as for Halloween.
Yeah.
It
Everyone
looked
was Pennywise.
brilliant.
It was a real buzz
in my
about it.
eyes.
Do you remember this time last year when it came out?
It was brilliant.
I loved it.
God, no.
I enjoyed it. Again, it wasn't masterpiece, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it
I wouldn't say
didn't.
it's a masterpiece, but
It
I
didn't
really
play to a
did.
horror. It played as a children's adventure, coming of age,
Absolutely.
lost innocence. It had so many of those themes in it. Final point, I know we said we're not going to talk about it, but what made it relevant to today's episode was how different it was to the book, and how actually watching this film is better if you've read the book, because there's a lot of references in it that.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Yeah, when you're watching the film, there's a lot of references where you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like burning hands coming out of a door at one point.
That's not explained in the film, but I've read the book.
Yeah, so if you've read it, you know
from.
what that comes from, and and all those scenes. So the book. Oh, God, it gets weird as well towards the end, but we'll save that for another day.
Wow, it gets weird.
Right then, James, you got any more?
No, I'm good.
Right then, I just want to point out some absolute stinkers. You should fire away if you've seen any of these. I've got Stephen King's proper list up because there's 2 on here I definitely want to just have 30 seconds with. So we talked about Carrie and the Shining, Cujo.
Yeah, I like Cujo.
I wanted to watch that, but
I
I
like
didn't
Cujo.
get a
That
chance
dog
today.
was mental, man.
Cujo, big sense.
That's one I'm going to watch because I've never seen.
I really like it. Book's great as well. Dead Zone.
I've seen it, but I don't remember it.
Christopher Walken, brilliant one. Children of the Corn.
I love Children of the Corn because the kid.
I didn't know that, Stephen King.
The kid who plays the main kid in the film is actually like a 30-year-old man, isn't he?
Yeah, and there was
really?
There
He
was
just
three,
looks like a kid.
There's three Children of the Corn and a remake and a spin-off. But yeah, he had writing credit on the first one. Firestarter with a very young, what was his name? Drew Barrymore in
I've
that
not seen
one.
that one.
Nope.
Silver Bullet with our best friend Gary Busey. We've got to throw his name in there at
we've
some
got to
point.
watch that.
That's the werewolf one. No, it's good. That one. I quite enjoyed that. Yeah, plays the uncle in that.
You haven't mentioned Christy. I like Christy.
Because I'm doing these in chronological order, so it's coming.
Calm down, you beautiful man.
Now, 30
Gorgeous,
seconds on the
beautiful
film Maximum Overdrive. Did anyone see it?
What? Maximum Overdrive with a Green Goblin truck.
Yes.
And Emilio Estevez.
Yes.
Love that film.
Maximum-
Love that film in a really ironic way because I hate that film.
Everyone hates that film. It's one of the most poorly rated. It's the only time Stephen King's ever directed the film as well.
Yeah, there's
not
a reason why after
yeah.
this fact he never did again.
It's not a book. It is purely wrote for a screen. Stephen King did Maximum Overdrive. It's when inanimate objects just come to life one day following a comet going past Earth's orbit, and it causes all these inanimate objects to come to
Seriously,
life.
the main bad guy, Sam, is a truck with Green Goblin's face on it from Spider-Man.
It sounds familiar.
It's, again, when I was talking about TNT and Bravo, this was on there all the time.
Yeah, it does sound very familiar.
There's a big campaign to get it a Blu-ray release because everyone wants to
Oh my God, is it not on Blu-ray?
No.
Oh, they've got to get on Blu-ray.
Like I say, Emilio Estevez in it. It is just, it got voted for every Raspberry and every Blunder award that year and lost to Prince's directorial debut, unfortunately. He took all of them. Maximum Overdrive, which Stephen King tries to say, he says, it's my one time I directed, never do it again. And he just tried to wash his hands of it. Stand By Me, Running Man. Didn't talk about the Running Man.
What?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
I think it's because
That's
most people
Stephen
don't
King.
know that was a Stephen King.
No,
Yeah.
I did not. I love that film. I
Yeah,
would watch
short
like
film.
anything like
Again,
that.
another one where Stephen King says why Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a typical because he was hot at the time, 1987.
But also, he's perfect for Running Man.
Yeah.
I love Running Man.
Yeah, but in the book he's not. In the book, the book is different. So it's the same theme about entering a game show, not as a criminal, but to win money. And it's set over the whole globe, not a like arena like that was.
I don't know if you
set.
two-
Oh, right, okay.
I think films are better when Stephen King keeps his fingers out of them.
Yeah, he did. He had a problem with.
filthy
He had a
hands
problem
away
with
from
Arnold
this.
Schwarzenegger being in it. Pet Sematary, Misery, Graveyard Shift, The Dark Half, Needful Things, Shawshank Redemption, Dolores. Claiborne, I haven't seen that one or come across the book, so that's completely fresh to me. Mangler, Finner, you got Apt Pupil. That one we've all seen the Family Guy episode about finding out your neighbour's an ex-Nazi.
Is that? Oh, right. Okay.
Where what's his name? Gandalf plays the Nazi.
Ian McKellen.
Sir Ian McKellen, yeah. Green Mile, Hearts of Atlantis, Dreamcatcher, Secret Window, Johnny Depp.
Oh, of course. I like that film.
Yeah, it's a one film. Every
Very
time I
much.
watch it, I can never remember how it ends.
Never seen it.
Every time.
It's not bad.
It's got your boy Jesus in it, you know, the bowler from John Turturro.
Jesus, mate.
Jesus, mate.
Yeah. Riding the Bullet, 1408, The Mist.
Right.
Now, can we just have a minute?
Tom
on the
Jane
list?
again.
Can we just have a minute?
We can't do it. We can't do it justice. We
I
can't
just
do
want a minute.
The Mist justice.
The Mist has one of the most depressing endings to a film ever.
It's also got one of the best bad guys in the film ever. Oh, whoa!
Yes, it
Mist.
does.
I thought someone was going to punch me. Yeah, that Mist is fantastic. You're talking about the religious woman, aren't you?
Yeah, the religious note. Again,
I have mentioned this to you many times. She is up there with Percy from
Yeah.
Green Mile with me. She makes me that angry that if I met her in the street, I would stab her to death.
Which is really funny.
Right.
'Cause she said probably really nice.
Yeah, probably.
And no one else has seen The Mist.
I have not seen a film like that got me so angry with a character like her before.
Yeah.
Other than Percy.
But again, that reoccurring theme in his books about religion being, you know, the source of evil characters and such.
yeah.
The Mist, tragic ending to it. One of the writers in that as well moved on to go on to one of the
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead,
And you can tell that because all the cast.
There's about 3 members of Walking Dead in that film. If you go back and rewatch it, obviously Tom Jane. This is his third Stephen King, and none of them have been good. That Tom Jane. Well, I haven't seen 1922 yet, but yeah. Mercy, the Cell, terrible film, great book. That's John Cusack and Samuel Jackson again. So they obviously enjoyed 1408 that much that they got back together.
Well, I mentioned you earlier, didn't I? I put a thing on Snapchat earlier. I pictured John Cusack saying, guess what film I'm watching? And a listener of the show messaged back saying, you watching The Cell?
Well, they
No, I'm not going to.
They're a good person if they're.
Well, they got
listening to
it.
them all, so they.
Yeah, exactly. So
Carry on messaging that person. Sam.
that's Kelly Walker. Well done, Kelly Walker. You got a shout out.
Cell changed the ending. The book ending was far better than whatever that was. However that film was. It's dreadful. Dark Tower, which spawned all of this. Then It came out last year. Gerald's Game, 1922. Next year we have It Part 2, Doctor Sleep, and in 2020 we have Joyland, which is one of my favourite of his shorter novels.
Pet Sematary next year.
And Pet Sematary, yeah. So still more to come. Happy
He's not
birthday
slowing
last
down,
week,
is
Stephen
he?
King,
Happy
71.
birthday. SK.
Yeah, so I don't think he's slowing down. I think his films will always. I think his books are just of that quality that they'll always look to make a TV film or whatever
absolutely.
from it.
The thing is, his name seems to sell, doesn't it?
I think he's a very good setup person.
Yeah.
So I think
definitely.
I think I said this last week. I think if his film stopped about 3 chapters before, he would be one of my favourite authors. The problem is he doesn't, and so he's not.
Yeah,
And I think his films, his problem with Kubrick and The Shining, that to me is probably Kubrick knows what makes a good film.
Yeah.
Stephen King knows what makes a good book. He should have deferred.
I like Stephen King books. I always do. I mean, if you've read 75% of them, you must like them. I like the reoccurring themes in them because it means when I get the book, I know what I'm getting. I love how he uses Maine and Derry and Portland as a backdrop because that part of America is enriched with things like the Salem witch trials and all that kind of stuff. So it's all embedded and it's in the fabric of his novels. It just makes sense. So I'm a big fan, and like I say, I'll continue to read his stuff. Great stuff. Let's end the show like we do each and every week because if we've talked about a film that is great, we put it in our vault of films. There's definitely 2 going in.
You're talking about The Shining?
The Shining's going in.
And you're talking about Shawshank Redemption?
Shawshank Redemption, both going in. That fair?
Yep.
That's fair. I'm just going to write them in, my friend.
We then put films into the pit. So Sarlacc's pit is the area of where we put a bad film. Films that we don't enjoy, that goes in there. So any of the films that we've talked about today, they're going into the pit.
I'm not going to put, just by the fact that Dreamcatcher is quite possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen. I loved it.
Yeah, circling the
So
ball.
like, you know when we talk about the Meg and it's not good, I loved Dreamcatcher, but I'll watch it again at some point. So
Absolutely. But personally, there wasn't any respect about today that I would say get on either.
I'd probably put Finner in there, but
Oh, actually, yes. And after that conversation with
I've
Finner,
not seen Finner.
maybe Finner. And then the only other one we do is Sam's Hole. So that's where if it goes in there, we won't talk about it ever again. I don't think anything's been that bad to throw into Sam's Hole.
Nope.
no, not yet.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some Stephen King films that can go in that. But,
definitely.
But we just didn't
The
talk about it today.
Langoliers, which we can't talk about TV movie, but that would definitely go in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's time for the box.
Yes. Time for the box. Do you know what's really weird? Even though this has been probably one of the longest episodes at 1 hour 45, I still feel like there's so much more I could have talked about.
We could have done,
we have rushed,
you know,
haven't
like
we?
the
Very much so.
Rose
We've put out
Madder,
loads,
just there's so many that it's weird. Maybe
come
we'll
back.
revisit
I
Stephen
was
King
gonna say,
another day.
we'll come
be
back
nice.
after these remakes. It part 2, Green
Very
Mile.
good. Yeah, next year be very good.
Next
to
year
sort of
we'll
come
do
back
it, and we'll Green Mile next year for his birthday.
Make it an annual thing.
Make it an annual
Stephen
thing.
King's birthday. Yeah, it'd be beautiful.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was a bit too loud. I do apologise.
Yes. All right.
Anyway, we do need to enter. I need a wee again. So
So each and every week we dive into my cinema box collection, Sam pulls the ticket out, or sometimes Woozy puts his hand in there.
No, it was only a one.
It was a
One-off. Just wanted to have a feel around, see what it was all about.
I'll let him fill your box, but it's my box. Stay away from it.
So
That's technically his box.
yeah, it's my box. But Sam's pulled a seat. What film out? So let's hear it. What is it?
Did you just see what I wrote down?
I saw the ticket. Yeah.
Ah, shit. Okay, so what date we got here? 28th of the 5th of the 05. You went to go see House of Wax, row F, screen 1.
Not even the
C11.
original.
No.
House of Wax with our girl.
Paris Hilton.
Paris.
You see, this is who you were talking about earlier. I was talking about Eliza Cuthbert.
Yeah, I'll talk
Elijah
about
Cuthbert
Paris
is
Hilton.
the main in it,
He's the
and
main
the main guy who's the guy from One Tree Hill. Can't remember his name. He's a free barrel name. I think one of the names might be Michael in there, might be a Taylor in there.
It's not good, and that's the nicest thing
Or
I
it
think
might be a
anyone's
Chad.
ever said
James,
that film.
James, can you let's let Aaron set this film up, shall we?
There's no
Yeah,
real
please.
way to say no. I can't remember. It's 2005. It's a bunch of kids on a road trip.
Yep.
Stop in this remote town where there doesn't really seem to be anyone, but there is a wax museum there.
Yep.
It's inspired
We all
by.
like a wax museum, though.
Yeah, I'd probably go to it. I don't mind a Man and Two Swords.
Two brothers, as I recall.
Yeah, and they stop by, and it turns out that the wax museum is made up of real people that have been turned into wax.
Village is made up of wax people.
Yeah, and it's just a typical run-of-the-mill slasher horror film that tried to introduce Paris Hilton as an actress.
Why did you go?
I was young. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you've never been into this sort of stuff.
No, I was into it back then.
Was you?
Did you make him watch this film?
No,
I did go on my own, so someone's at fault. Yeah, I blame them. Whoever I went with, I blame them.
Because I'd like to point out, I recall the last part of the film when the house that is literally made of wax
Starts melting.
But because of a fire that's been started, as if nothing ever before has generated heat.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was balls.
Yeah, it's not,
This film was 15 years ago, and I met Aaron 14 years ago, so I actually cannot be blamed for this.
yeah, it's true.
Well,
Seriously.
that angry, I dropped my pen.
Oh.
No, no, didn't you say it was filmed in 2005? That's 13 years ago.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So you
So
can't
it
be
could have
blamed
been
for
you.
this.
Ah, shit,
The plot
it's probably me.
thickens.
No, I watched it on DVD.
He's tried to bamboozle you with maths.
Yeah.
No, I watched it on DVD. You know the one that you bought and lent me?
Yeah. We've
You come around wearing that House of Wax scarf anyway.
no, stay away from. Stay away from it. It's just.
I stick it in a hole. I hate
Can
it.
we put it in the hole?
put it in the hole.
Oh, something's going in my hole for once.
We're not going to talk about it, are we? Ever
Yeah,
again?
remind me to write it in. I dropped my pen.
Terrible film.
Oh, there's a pen. No.
Right then, let's end the show then. So, any more business?
Just a quick one. I would just like to bring up. We put it out to our Facebook beauties. So the Green Mile was mentioned by Stu Taylor and Matt Jones. Shawshank got the most hits with Kareem, Scott Bowman, Matt Jones, Gloria Bowman, Tom Green. Dave Donaldson put a Shawshank gif up.
Oh, I like a
Very
gif.
nice.
I like a gif and a meme.
The Mist was mentioned twice by Matthew Curtis and Tom Green. Tom Green also mentioned Misery along with
Did
Matt
Tom Green
Jones.
just pour more?
Actually, no, Matt Jones put more.
All right, fair enough.
The Shining, Scott Bowman, Matt Jones, and It by Scott Bowman. And Matt Jones said the first film, the first half of the original.
Matt Jones also said Tommy Knockers because it has the word knockers in it.
Yes, he did. I'm glad. I meant to write that down. I
Who
forgot.
here seen Tommy Knockers? I've
Yeah.
seen Tommy Knockers. Awful.
I have not seen Tommy
I believe
Knockers.